Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Higurashi Tuesday proper. We after about a week and a few days of not reading, taking the smallest break of Higurashi after finishing the last arc, which was called I'm gonna look it up, but I'm gonna act like I'm not cheating. Toki Higushi. And we'll just keep that in between us. So we had finished that last time we read. Again, that was like a week, maybe like 9 days ago, 10 days ago. And now we're hitting it again. We have, mind your ears, booting it up, this thing called connecting fragments, which, if my understanding is correct, it is going to be like the connecting fragments thing that we did during the main story proper, but what this is the connecting fragments that were exclusive to the console arcs. So it's the same situation where it's like little snippets or vignettes, I would imagine, but it's only going to involve the new characters that we've had in these advanced arcs or console arcs, or at least new fragments basically to see. That is my understanding. I don't think it's gonna show us any fragments from what we had done when we read the main storyline there at the end in chapter 8, maybe, or leading up to 8. I forget if that the gameplay like element of like selecting the fragments and things, I forget if that was at the end of 7 leading into 8, or if that was the beginning of 8. It feels like so long ago now at this point. Boom. But the end is close. We're doing connecting fragments, and then as far as I understand, I know I keep kind of harping on this, but like as far as I understand, Emojo here is like the last huge arc as far as time goes, because I think this, we'll obviously get more into it when we actually get to it, but I think this is like the same as this, and we've already read this, so a lot of this copies this with only some changes or additions, and so I think it's built in that you can skip all the parts you've already read from this into this. So then we're only going to be reading the new sections and the new bits. This one, like I said, I think is kind of longer, on the longer side. But then I think these are all short. And I don't think connecting fragments is very long. I don't think we're finishing it tonight, but I don't think it's super long, as far as I can tell. So, the light at the end of the Higurashi tunnel is viewable. Foreseeable. I'm trying to see how bold of a statement I want to make. We're in the month of August right now. And if you would have asked me, even at the beginning of this year, if we would have still been reading Higurashi into August, I probably would have been like, no, I definitely finished before that. But, I have, not next week, but the week after. I originally wanted to do next week, but I couldn't. So, but in 2 weeks' time, I have a full week off of work for vacation. So I'll be taking a vacation, but I'll be like probably streaming some of those days. And I'm of the mindset that I may be so bold as to like just pick one of the days and just do like an all-day Higurashi reading thing just to like make sure we finish in August. Because I think that's what it would take to like literally like get done or get very close to finishing. But we'll see. I won't have to commit to that until like a week and a half from now, so. Connecting fragments. These are the additional fragments added in the console version of Chapter 8, Matsurubayashi. They should be read after completing Sumitsushi, Kageboshi, and Tokyogushi. Surely I'm pronouncing all this correctly again. Don't check me on that. These fragments explore the additional characters introduced in the console arcs. Okay. I think that's exactly what I had said. I think I said that to a T before. Oh, we're right in. We're jumping right in. Get into reading mode. It's been, like I said, like 9 days since we read, so I gotta kind of get back into the swing of things. Also, ooh, maybe TMI, but like in the last hour, I had like an acid reflux like flare up thing, and I was like, that's strange. And it's like the first like flare up I've had in like ages. Because if you don't know this about me, I take a daily omeprazole to manage my stomach acid because of a hiatal hernia that I have. Or hiatus hernia. And so I manage it quite well, but all of a sudden I was like laying on my couch like listening to a video essay or something, and I was like, oh, that's not a great feeling. I was like, I gotta read. So hopefully that doesn't like get worse, progressively worse here tonight. Alright. Welcome to the world of the final chapters of Higurashi When They Cry, Matsurubayashi, and Miyatsukushi. In this world, you'll be able to recreate the story from Hanyu's point of view. Your objective is to create the June 1983 ideal to you. Now, if you'll recall, like I kind of mentioned before, we did a connecting fragments thing back when we were reading the main thing, main chapter 8, almost probably around a year ago to this day. Maybe a little less, maybe like 10 months ago to this day. That's just a guess on my part on the channel. But the whole thing was you had to, like, pick the clips in order, the fragments in a certain order to get the good ending or get, like, an extra thing or whatever. It was, like, the most gamification of, like, Higurashi. Again, if my research from, like, months ago, if I'm remembering correctly, I think they just present this in the order that you read them. So we just read in a natural order. You don't have to, like, guess. I think that's the case. You'll need to collect many different fragments to make that possible. However, Takano's conviction is very strong. Oh, Takano! I haven't had to think about her in quite some time. To overturn it, you'll need a lot of effort and a lot of fragments. I'll warn you right now, it would be a slow and painful process. Hanyu went through it for over 100 years, and she even had to stop and give in to fate. Now, even this sounds familiar. I think we probably even read this kind of, like, stretch. It was, like, the same preamble before. Defeating Takano's conviction will not be easy. The trial in this world will put you through as much pain as Hanyu had to endure. You may surrender, just like Hanyu did, after being emotionally worn down by the constant repetition of the worlds woven by countless fragments. When you feel like surrendering, you can end this game at any time. Just close the window. But if you do, the worlds revolving around your friend's fate will be limited to Onikakushi through Minagoroshi. By forgetting about this world and erasing the story from your memory, you will finally accept death, just like Rika did. Your ideal June 1983 can be created by putting together 99 fragments that are scattered all over this world. To connect these fragments together, you'll need the right ones. There are 99 of them, which may be dizzying. However, this world isn't that merciless. To ease your pain, there'll be a little help for you. When you choose the wrong pieces, your only ally here will give you a sign that it's not yet time to put those fragments together. As long as the sign remains, you won't be able to connect them. You might as well go look for different ones. After you put other fragments together, you might be able to connect the ones you couldn't put together earlier. When that happens, she'll let you know. Let's put those fragments together. Then you'll be able to join the other ones too. There are also some fragments that can offer you advice. They will be revealed by the fragment words you've gained from the worlds thus far, or from completely different words. Yes, the most familiar words you've encountered while playing Higurashi When They Cry may open the way. Trying out various things is one way. And then, when the huge mass of all 99 fragments are linked together, you'll arrive at the fragment of Matsurubayashi, or Miyatsukushi. The ideal June of 1983 will be born there. That's when the long-awaited Matsurubayashi, or Miyatsukushi, will finally begin. Before you peek at each fragment, why don't you line up all 99 of them first? Most of them require other fragments, so there are only a few you can actually look at. Let's try to find those first. This will be an extremely long and difficult trial. Let me tell you again, Hanyu challenged us for over 100 years and gave up on it. Now again, I think this is describing what the experience would be like if we also had the fragments that we had connected back during the main story. Again, I'm pretty sure those are not going to be available here. I will say, hey, if you want to see me put together the fragments from the main game, go find that video on this channel. Like I said, it was about 10 months ago to this day. Around-ish. 10 months? 9? 8? Somewhere between the numbers 4 and 11 months ago. 4. I could make it, more like somewhere between 8 and 11 months. If you believe in miracles in the same way your friends do, even if you don't live in the world where they live, if you believe in them. Now, let the connecting fragments begin. Here, we gather the scattered fragments of destiny. It's a very important journey of patience that demonstrates the power of your strong will. 100% concentrated power and will. In this world, you'll be tested to see if you believe in the world that Rika and the others believed in. A miracle only happens when everyone combines their strength. The June 1983 created by Takano is nearly indomitable. She's gathered many people whose powers are beyond the average person to her side, her backers being at the center of national authority. Even if 100 dice all rolled ones, there wouldn't even be a chance to defeat her. In other words, a miracle is the only way forward. A miracle happens only when everyone combines their strength. And you are one of them. Also, additional worlds have been prepared for those who finish reading these stories. One is Higurashi. This is a world that Rika never wanted to see. But in order to prove her true nature and her growth, this world must never be avoided. And the other is Kotohogushi. This is a world from the past that Hanyu herself has sealed from her own memory. In the era when Hinamizawa was known as Onigifuchi. If you wish to know how she came to be known as Oshiro-sama, you can catch a glimpse of that here. However, what a tease. This is giving us. Her own memory has gotten faulty after so many years of wandering, so not everything seen there may be accurate. Thus, I hope you may enjoy this world as it is. Are you ready? You ready? I'm more than ready. The key to a long journey is not to pressure yourself too hard. Well, just take it at a light pace. I'll watch from my usual place. Shall we begin? We have all the time in this world. No, we don't have all the time in the world is the thing. Let's meet again after you manage to bring peace to the entire world. He. Oh, let me see something. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Sorry, I was doing something off stream there for a sec. So I think I say view new tips, yeah? Womp. 1 of 5. What happens if I click view all tips? Okay. I had like, not like, I should say on the small chance that I clicked view all tips and I had like the connecting fragments from like, that we had read previously. Okay, so again, I'm half sure. Oh, they changed color. Fragment of Miyatsukushi B. Or beta? I'm pretty sure we just read these in order. I don't think that we have to get fancy or complicated. At the victory celebration. Send me into the fragment. Let me make sure audio is where I want it to be. What's so amusing about that? An old relative of mine asked me to serve for a banquet, and I didn't understand the meaning behind his extreme joy. No, it's not that I didn't understand. It's that I couldn't comprehend it. Cheers for successfully preventing the Hinamizawa Dam project! Cheers! Cheers for the Onigafuji Guardians! The villagers were raising 3 cheers. Okay, so this is way back in time. Villagers were raising 3 cheers with their faces bright red from drinking, enjoying the food, and making a loud noise. Every last one of them was patting one another on the shoulder, shaking hands, and letting out roaring laughter regardless of who they were interacting with. It was already late in the night, but the mood was hardly calming down. In fact, it was getting hotter. Serves you right, you bureaucrats! You underestimate the power of all the Hinamizawa United. Yeah. Justice was on our side. I've had enough of these government officials selfishly destroying the foundation of our lives. Let's have a toast to our justice and to Oyashiro-sama. Cheers! The old people raised another toast for who knows how many times today, shouted while holding up their beer glasses. Their laughter was getting louder and louder, and my ears were painfully ringing. The smell of food and alcohol in the room was completely overbearing, and I was starting to feel a little sick, so I stepped out into the hallway. Finally managing to escape that suffocating atmosphere, took a great big breath. The Hinamizawa region was no longer going to be submerged by the dam. The old folks certainly did have reason to celebrate since they prevented the loss of their hometown. But is everyone in the village actually happy about this outcome? That question came to mind after listening to my parents.
The
government is apparently offering hefty compensation to the families displaced from Hinamizawa. It's even enough to buy a single-family home in a semi-urban area. If I'd known that, I would have kept Hinamizawa listed on my residence card. Hey, cut it out. I'm sure your mother would be upset if she heard that. We're still members of the Kimiyoshi family, aren't we? I don't care. Plus, even if we're part of the 3 families, we're only a branch family. It never provided us any sort of benefit, and for me it just meant I had to live out way in the countryside. That was the reason she went to a boarding school in the city for high school. She found a college and a job in that same town, and I hear she used that part-time job as an excuse not to go home over the summer. That's why, even now, she didn't get along well with Grandma. She didn't participate at all in the voice line stuck, man, from Rad. If anyone knows what I'm talking about. She didn't participate at all in the dam war because she didn't want to be seen with Grandma, who was obsessed with Hinamizawa. Mom never felt tied down to Hinamizawa in the first place. She hated the countryside. Information was scarce and entertainment options were limited. Travel was inconvenient and the climate was hot. Mom can be loud and annoying sometimes, but I understand how she must have felt. Because I wasn't all that fond of Hinamizawa either. And tonight in particular, my thoughts were leaning closer to hate. Even though people have died, how can these people smile and laugh this much? It happened just last month. The on-site director at the dam construction site was slaughtered by his laborers, and his body was found dismembered. One of the culprits still hasn't been found, and there are rumors that they hid in Okinomiya. Thanks to that, my school required everyone to travel in groups when coming and going from school. But discussions about the Hinamizawa Dam project are now being re-reviewed, and word of that seems to have reached the town council. That's why the villagers have been saying the curse of Oishiro-sama killed the on-site director, and the government froze the dam construction plan out of fear. But how can they be so happy about it? even if it benefits them, is it right to enjoy someone else's misfortune? The one time I saw the on-site director on the road, he certainly did have a gruff appearance, and I was scared at first. But when he asked me for directions and I told him the way, he said, "Thanks, miss," and bought me a can of juice. I used to live in Inamazawa for a few years, and everyone always thought me a gloomy girl, so the villagers were always somewhat aloof to me. So, having someone treat me kindly for the first time in so long made me really happy. Can't judge a book by its cover. I'm sure he's a good person. That's why I hated when the people somewhat close to me like Mion-chan and the others talked bad about him. So, I wasn't interested in participating in the protest demonstrations with my relatives and the villagers. Even though people criticized us behind our backs for that due to our ties to the three families, I pretended not to hear it. But that man died just last month. He was killed. He'd never speak again. He'd never meet me on the roadside and buy me juice again. Thinking about that, my chest tightened to grief. And yet, despite that, these people were... And it wasn't just the harshness making me uncomfortable. Oryu-san and Uncle Kimiyoshi seemed truly happy to say serves them right, but the people around them were just pretending to be happy. As evidence of that, whenever one of them stepped out of the ring of cheers to grab a drink of their own, they'd sigh with a slightly tired look on their face. They're not actually happy, they're just doing it so they don't feel left out. Defying the will of the village would make them just like the director who was killed. That's it, they're just making excuses to be accepted by the other villagers. How stupid. Really, everyone doesn't believe in the curse at all. What they actually fear is going against the will of the village, being labeled an enemy of Hinamazawa. Enough so that they'd show barbaric faces to people they hate, and wish that a curse would kill them. And the on-site director was the one who received the curse this time. And if that's the case, then the next one the curse is likely to befall is the Hojo family who organized the pro-dam movement. Or maybe someone who defended them, or even someone who didn't come out strongly enough saying they were that they were an enemy. I've heard the villagers spreading rumors like that when I was out helping with farming work. And every time it's not Oishiro-sama they're afraid of. It's the leaders of the three families. Everyone is lying. They speak vehemently about companionship and pride in their hometown, but the root of all that is fear. Can such an outrageously shameful solidarity really be legitimate? Is that something to take pride in? My head ached. My heartbeat was getting intense, and cold sweat began flowing down my cheeks. I clung to my chest and thought about trying to go home for the day, so I decided to go looking for Uncle Kimiyoshi. So yeah, are we gonna get just... So, like, the connecting fragments, if we recall, they're like small bite-sized, like, exactly that, so I assume we're gonna keep, you know, coming out. You know, I don't know how long we're gonna read tonight. Hopefully a decent chunk. I don't have a set time that I need to leave or anything. Let me... What is this? Oh, I have a friend asking me something. One sec, let me think. Sorry, I have a friend asking... He works in video game publishing, and he's asking me a very specific question. I'll have to think later on that. Damn. Okay. So I think I just go left to right. I don't think I go down, right?
さかここまでやってくれるとはな。
I can't believe they went this far. I gulped down some more alcohol and let out a long sigh while shaking my stomach to release the tension. Shake your stomach. Delicious liquor and delicious hors d'oeuvres. Hors d'oeuvres. My tongue had grown accustomed to the cheap sake and stew served at bars, so this was clearly beyond my means. Even when I received the invitation, I never dreamed that the Metropolitan Police Department would show such generous hospitality, and I felt a twinge of regret for showing up empty-handed.
せめてミナイさんがいてくれたら気が楽だったんだが。
At the very least, it would have been nice if Minai-san was here. After meeting Deputy Inspector Minai at a networking meeting in Tokyo, a few years back, we'd become friends and would go out drinking together anytime I came to town. Let me see. After we become friends and go drinking together anytime I came to town. He was originally supposed to be here acting as an intermediary for Commissioner Yamaoki, but unfortunately, something urgent came up that demanded his attention, so he wouldn't be coming. Oishi-san, don't be so stiff. Minai-kun told me you're quite a drinker. Go on. No need to hesitate.
いやお恥ずかしい。
How embarrassing.
こういう畳敷きの広い場所で飲むのは温泉地に慰安旅行に行った時ぐらいのものでして。
The only time I've drunk in a wide open tatami-lined room like this was when I went on a hot spring vacation.
私は田舎での小心者ですから妙に身構えてしまうんですよ。
I'm a humble country man, so I feel a little out of my element here.
そんなご謙遜を。
So humble.
とりあえずこんなじじいの尺で大変恐縮ですが、もう一つどうぞ。
Anyway, an old man shows gratitude by pouring you another.
ああ、これはすみません。
Oh, thank you.
おっとっとっと。ああ、いい匂いだな。
Smells nice.
いい日本酒ってのは香りだけで酔わせてくれますね。
Good alcohol can get you drunk off the scent alone. Commissioner poured some warm alcohol into my cup as I said that, and I took a drink. Even after tasting it again, I can confidently say this is really good alcohol. It'd be wonderful if a beautiful young lady was the one pouring it for me, but enjoying a drink recommended by a superior is nice too, I guess. Thinking that, not wanting to be rude to Yamaoki-san, I decided to believe that and smiled at him.
いやそれにしても山沖さんにはほとほと頭が下がりますね。
Oh my! Anyway, my hat's off to you, Yamaoki-san.
わざわざ私なんかのためにこんな素敵な席を設けてくださったんですから。
You went to a lot of trouble to prepare this for me.
本当にありがたい限りですよ。
I do sincerely appreciate it.
何をおっしゃいます。
What are you talking about?
大石さんには今回の白樺山荘の籠城事件で大変お世話になりました。
Oishi-san, grateful for all your help during the Shirakawa Mountain Villa siege.
地元警察と我ら警視庁との連携がつつがなく行えたのもひとえにあなたのご協力があってのことというすけいやうちの見ないからお聞きしております。
Local police and the Metropolitan Police Department were only able to collaborate so seamlessly thanks to your help. That's what Minai told me.
彼の分までお礼を言わせてください。
So please, let me thank you on his behalf.
いやいや、私は別に大したことなんてしていませんよ。
No, I didn't do all that much.
ちょいと脇腹をつついて冷やかしてやっただけです。
Just a bit of prodding at people's sides and cooling things down.
偉そうに見せようとふんぞり返るのも結構ですが、武装した犯人にはそんなハったりは通じませんよってね。
Acting all cocky and tough is fine and all, but bluffs like that won't work when it comes to armed criminals. Compared to MPD investigators and riot police who are used to dealing with violent criminals on a daily basis, folks at Prefectural Police HQ weren't just lacking in skills and equipment, but courage too. It's beyond reckless to expect people like that to brave the danger of going up against hold-up armed civilian or criminals using hostages as shields. In fact, I was ready to smack the person responsible upside the head when I heard they hadn't even distributed bulletproof vests to investigators from the get-go. Even so, perhaps fueled largely by a sense of inferiority, rather than bowing down to MPD, higher-ups stubbornly refused to work together. Thanks to that, their posture for dealing with the criminal group was completely inadequate, and their initial raid was repelled immediately, making the effort completely meaningless and resulting in some serious injuries. And so, the other investigators on scene and I argued with upper management and appealed for them to delegate authority to the riot police. Thanks to that, overall command authority has handed off to the riot police while we took care of logistical support. As a result, the third raid on the mountain villa was a success.
大井さんたちが県警の方々を説得してくれなかったら山荘への突入はさらに遅れていたでしょう。
Oishi-san, if you and the others hadn't gone through to the prefectural police, Mountain Villa raid would have been delayed even further.
そうなれば中で囚われていた人質の身はさらに危険なものとなっていたに違いない。
And if that had happened, the hostages inside would have been in even more danger.
実際身柄を保護した管理人の奥方は衰弱が激しく精神的なストレスもあって現在も長期入院を余儀なくされていますからね。
In fact, the landlord's wife suffered so much mental trauma she was taken into protection and had to stay hospitalized for a long time.
お気の毒な話です。
Sorry to hear that.
私たちが覚悟をもっと早いところで決めていたらと思うと心が痛みますよ。
It pains me that we didn't take action sooner.
いやいや、あなた方は十分やってくださいました。
Oh no, you did more than enough.
その方のご主人も無事の救出をとても喜んでくれましたし、犯人の逃亡も阻止できました。
The landlord was very pleased that the hostages were safely rescued, and we managed to prevent the criminals from escaping.
それだけでも上々とすべきだと私は思っております。
As far as I'm concerned, that alone is more than a job well done.
そう言ってもらえるとこちらも救われます。
Hearing you say that makes me feel at ease.
まあうちの県警の連中ときたら自意識過剰っていうか東京の方々に対して対抗意識を持ってる奴らが多いですからね。
Hearing you say that makes me feel at ease. Well, the prefectural police staff are overly self-conscious, and many of them do feel a sense of rivalry with the folks in Tokyo.
こういう時にこそゴチンと言っておかなくては。
At times like these, you have to speak sternly with people.
連中にもいい薬になったと思いますよ。
I think this was good medicine for them.
いえいえ、本来なら我々警視庁も県警の方々の立場を尊重してことを進める予定だったんですがね。
Oh, no. We at MPD originally intended to proceed while respecting the authority of the prefectural police.
あれ以上もたもたしていると人質の安否はおろか犠牲者がさらに増えていたかもしれない。
But moving any slower would likely have compromised the safety of the hostages, or even increased the number of casualties.
申し訳ないと思いつつも苦渋の選択でした。
Terribly sorry. It's a painful choice to make.
そのあたりをぜひ皆さんにもご理解いただけましたらありがたいです。
It'd be nice if everyone could understand that.
ねえ分かっていますって。
Right, I totally understand.
捜査一課長と公安課長にはちゃんと話をつけておきますから。
I'll have a nice long talk with the section chief of the 1st Division and the section chief of public security.
どうぞ休んじてお任せあれなんてね。
Rest assured, you can leave that to me. Just kidding. Oh. As long as I poured another round to Yamaoki in a good mood, I was suddenly astonished that there were such capable people at public security. 1st Division section chief at Prefectural HQ and the section chief of public security were actually old mahjong partners of mine. They must have investigated the depth of those connections before asking me to act as the intermediary.
もっともここまでやってもらっちゃ断れませんがね。
Although, there was no way I could refuse after going so far. If we were following standard protocol, you'd simply have to meet with each section chief directly and offer them your gratitude while clearly explaining the situation. But they figured someone who actually endured dangerous crime scenes, especially a local detective like myself, would be a nice touch for getting through to them. That's why, in addition to working hard for gratitude, they were seeking mediation so the people in the field could save face. and I couldn't exactly feel bad about them wanting to make me a key player. I was grateful enough for that sentiment alone.
そういえば例の酒いかがでしたか
By the way, how was that alcohol you all received from after that incident?
あの程度で皆さんの労行の代価とは思っておりませんが、お口に合えばよかったのですが。
I don't think it was suitable compensation for the extent of everyone's troubles, but I hope you enjoyed it.
とんでもない、十分ですよ。
Don't be absurd, it was more than enough.
鹿島桜でしたか。
It was Kashima Sakura, wasn't it?
あんなうまい酒は飲んだことがないと、うちの署の連中大喜びでしたよ。
Everyone at the station was overjoyed. They said they never tasted anything better. No.
実は南井の地元になかなかの酒蔵がありましてね。
There's actually quite an impressive brewery near Minai's hometown.
私は時々買い付けているんですが、いやー、なかなかのものです。
I buy it myself from time to time. No, actually pretty often.
部下たちも勝手に封を開けて飲んでしまうくらいで、最近では見つからないように隠しているくらいですよ。
My subordinates would even uncork them without permission to have a drink, so these days I've been hiding it from them. Nah.
お気持ちはよくわかりますよ。
Now that I can totally understand. This is a secret to everyone. It's a secret to everyone. Zelda reference? But I actually swiped one of those bottles. No, 2 bottles, but I gave one of them to my mentor as a show of gratitude. He was a heavy drinker himself, so he was thrilled with it.
にしても残念ですね。
Anyway, it's a shame.
ぜひとも今夜はその鹿島桜の酒蔵を南さんに教えてもらいたかったのに。
Would have been nice if Minai-san could have been here tonight to tell us all about the Kashima Sakura Brewery.
休養が入っちまうとはついてないですよ。
But then he got called on urgent business. No. Poor luck.
いやいや、申し訳ありません。
Oh no, I'm terribly sorry.
あいつも今日の会を楽しみにしていたのですが、ちょいと本店に呼び出されまして。
He was really looking forward to today's meeting, but the main office, MPDHQ, called him in.
上司も松葉杖をつ
Oh, he
いて
talked in
一緒に
parentheses.
上京しています。
And his boss is currently on crutches, so they had to go to Tokyo together.
上司？
Boss?
ああ、気の強いエリートさんですね。
Ah, you mean that strong-willed elite course candidate? I suddenly recalled the face of the talented young man who stood beside Detective Minai. His name was... That's right, I'm sure it was Maino. Maino? His rank was Chief Inspector, but since he was in the career group and passed the National Civil Service exam, he was far younger than his subordinate, Minai-san. He was a bit hard to get along with, but he had guts and a wild spirit. He was quite a remarkable young man.
いやー、勇敢さはなかなか大したものだ。
Wow, he's got some impressive courage.
ああいう高学歴の方は鉄砲の音を聞いただけでブルっちまうもんだと思ってたんですけどね。
People from a highly educated background usually cower at the sound of gunshots.
自ら危険なチームの指揮を買って出るなんてベテラン刑事でもなかなかできることではありませんよ。
Not even veteran detectives would be so quick to volunteer to take command of such a dangerous team.
いやいや、勇敢と無鉄砲は違いますよ。
No, no, courage and recklessness are very different.
突入の際は周辺の紹介を念入りに行うようにと命じていたのに、低たらくですから。
Even though I gave him orders to patrol the surrounding area at the time of the raid, this is how things turned out.
一時は肝を冷やしました。
I was terrified for a while.
そういや、突入時に怪我をされたそうですね。
Now that you mention it, I did hear he was injured when he went in.
でも杖付きでも歩けるってことは大事がなさそうで何よりじゃないですか。
But it's not so serious that I'll have to walk with a cane, so it's all good, isn't it?
ええ、
Right.
南のおかげでね。
All thanks to Minai-san. Listening to that reply and seeing the bitter smile on his face, I was able to grasp the situation. Minai-san was considerate and didn't seem like the kind of person who would shoot at a dangerous criminal out of an emotional outburst, but I see. So that's how it was.
南は前のが公安に配属された当初、彼の指導教官を務めていましてね。
When Maino was initially assigned to public security, and I was the one acting as his mentor.
その縁あって階級が逆転した後も師弟というか年の離れた兄弟みたいな関係なんですよ。
Thanks to that, even after the roles were reversed, he regarded him like an older brother.
そういやそんな感じでしたね。
Now that you mention it, I could see that. Even in the handful of times I saw the two of them together, Chief Inspector Maino always addressed Minai-san in an honorific tone and never tried to act like a superior. And even when he had to be warned about the things he said and did, he accepted it completely frankly. When he saw all that, he said it was funny how someone as proud as him had such a cute side to him.
つまり本店に呼び出された理由がそれですか。
In other words, that's the reason he was called into the main office?
山木さん、
Yamaoki-san?
南井さんの処分どうなるんですか。
What's the situation with Minai-san's punishment?
それを今査問にかけているところです。
There's an ongoing inquiry into the incident.
まあ全然お咎めなしというわけにはいかないでしょうがね。
Well, can't say he's completely free of blame. He fired live rounds at a criminal even though a no-fire order was in effect. And to make it worse, the person he shot died, even though the criminals were armed and had already killed 3 people by that point in time. The fact that a policeman shot and killed a criminal while under strict no-fire orders was an extremely bad move. There was an incident just last year where a police officer shot and killed a ship hijacker, and the officer was charged with murder. This may be putting the cart before the horse, but the modern trend was to overlook those sorts of incidents.
しかしおかしな話だ。
But there's something strange about that.
南井さんが撃っていなかったら足を撃たれていた捜査員、前の警部はおそらく目前に迫った犯人によって殺されていたでしょう。
If Minai-san hadn't fired that shot, then the already wounded officer, Chief Inspector Mayuno, would probably have been killed by the criminal in question.
それは周囲の証言も、そしてテレビカメラの映像も十分に正当防衛であると証明してくれているじゃないですか。
The testimony of surrounding people and the footage from TV cameras should be enough to prove he was acting in legitimate self-defense, right?
それでも現場にいない人々にとっては建前の方が大事なんですよ。
Nevertheless, people watching from the sidelines place a great emphasis on saving face. Even if an officer is shot and killed, they just say it's an unavoidable part of his line of work. But on the other hand, shooting an armed criminal to ensure safety would cause a huge outcry demanding punishment for the illegal deed. Were they police VIPs or politicians? Don't know who said it first, but neglect of the people in the field had its limits.
くそったり。
Bullshit. Some of the strong proponents of democracy consider police officers and soldiers like guard dogs or hunting dogs and forget that they're actual human lives while spouting off their ideals. No, they're delusions. But those people are humans too. Of course, they consider their parents, siblings, their wife, and children more important than their job. What on earth guarantees them their rights, their pride?
じゃあ、やはり南井さんは免職ですか。
So, in the end, Minai-san is going to be discharged?
いえいえ、そこまではさせませんよ。
Oh, no, I won't let it get that far.
とりあえずみそぎ程度に今の部署は移動させますが、新設の私の直下の部署に置く予定です。
They're looking to remove him from his current department, but I plan to place him in a new department working directly under me.
ちょうど彼には担当してもらいたい事件がありましたからね。
On the grounds that I have a case I want him to be in charge of.
それで大丈夫なんですか。
Huh? Is that really alright?
確か以前シージャック犯を射殺した刑事さんは刑事告発されて罷免。上の方々も何人かがお辞めになられたと聞きましたが。
But in that case where a detective killed a ship hijacker, I heard the detective was dismissed and some of the higher-ups even resigned.
何、私たちとて指を加えて黙っているわけではありませんよ。
What? Can't expect us to stick our fingers in our mouths and keep quiet.
そもそも彼らに危険を負わせて命令を下す権限は彼らの公庫の憂いを取り除く義務を果たしてこそ担う資格を得るものと私は思っています。
I believe that we're only qualified to give orders that put people's lives at risk if we can fulfill our obligation to absolve their worries.
なればこそその行動に正当性を保証するのが私の役目。
In which case, it's my duty to guarantee the legitimacy of his actions.
全力でもって未来のことを守るつもりです。
So I'll do everything in my power to protect Minai.
すごいな。
Incredible. There was no sarcasm there. I seriously admired him. After all, unlike the so-called elites, the real elites have great resolve and strong compassion. Even in the siege operation, when it was overwhelming to see all of his subordinates acting beyond their duties, to the point I felt totally outclassed, it was only natural when they had a boss like that.
そういや、南井さんが撃ち殺したっていうあの下道野郎。
By the way, about that bastard that Minai-san killed.
名前、なんて言いましたっけ？
What did you say their name was again?
確か滝口和則。
I'm sure it was Kazunori Takiguchi,
東都大学の学生ですよ。
a student at Toto University.
T 大学籠城事件の時にもあの顔を見たことがあります。
I recall seeing his face at the T University siege incident. A strong wind blew. Natsumi Kimiyoshi. Get me in. When I heard the girls around me shrieking, I suddenly came back to my senses. Blood dripped down on the notebook on the desk, staining it in dark red. I saw a girl crouched down by my feet, clinging to her arm. I could hear her moaning in pain, but her face was hidden behind her bangs, so I couldn't make out her expression. Bright red blood was spilling out from beneath the spot on her arm she was holding, gently dyeing the sleeves of her white uniform. Two of her friends rushed over in a hurry with pale looks in their faces and called out to her, asking if she was okay. Maybe she was afraid of the sight of blood or confused after seeing it for the first time, because she kept her head face down and didn't answer them. Someone call the teacher, hurry! A young boy dashed out of the classroom as soon as he heard that. Watching his back as he went, I suddenly noticed the scissors that had fallen by my feet and picked them up. And then, I handed them over to the boy who stood frozen in shock right beside me. Those were his scissors, so I just wanted to return them. The boy turned to me with a frightened expression and quickly backed up. He must have been too panicked to realize there was a desk and chair behind him, so he stumbled on it and fell to the ground in an extremely over-the-top manner. It was so goofy and out of place I couldn't help but laugh, but only then did I notice that the hand holding the scissors was bloody. I absentmindedly gazed at my hands until finally my head began to clear up, and then my whole body suddenly began to tremble. I did this? The one who brought this girl by my feet all this pain, enough to make her bleed, was me? Then, the one who brought this shocking, frightening atmosphere to the entire classroom, was it me? As if to back that up, the whole class was glaring at me with hatred and blame in their gaze. You did this. You're a terrible person for hurting a classmate. Even if those words didn't reach my ears, they jumped straight into my head. That's not... It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. It wasn't me. In the shower. It wasn't me. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was just trying to defend myself, and I put a little strength into pushing it away with my hand. Why am I the bad guy here? It was the boy teasing me and trying to cut my hair. If he wasn't waving the scissors at me, none of this would have happened. And the classmates around me gawked at it in amusement without making any effort to stop it. If even one of them had said stop it, none of this would have happened. And yet, why? Why am I the bad guy? I alone did something bad. I was... Just then, a girl with a first aid kit came rushing in along with the health teacher. And when she ran up to the injured girl, she checked the wound on her arm and frowned. This is awful. This will need stitches. Contact her homeroom teacher. Call an ambulance.
橋、止血を手伝って。
You there, help stop the bleeding. Suddenly, teacher noticed me standing nearby, and when she saw the bloody scissors in my hand, she turned to me with condemnation in her eyes. You're the one who hurt this girl? So cruel, so violent. Cold gaze in her eyes transmitted that message to my ears. That's not true. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I'm not the one who did something wrong. Someone listen. Listen to me. Listen. No, I'm sure if you just keep saying it wasn't me, then they'll believe you. Just keep saying it hard enough. Beginning clinical trials.
どうですか、その後の具合は。
Well, have you been feeling better since then?
はい、
Yes.
おかげさまで最近気分がいいんです。
Thanks to you, I feel a lot better nowadays.
夜もよく眠れるようになりましたし、外を歩いていても頭痛がしたり、急に気分が悪くなったりすることはなくなりました。
I'm able to sleep well at night, and I no longer have those headaches when I walk outside or suddenly feel sick. I took a breath after answering the doctor sitting in front of me, and savored the joy of it. When an adult calls out to you, you look them in the eyes as you answer them. That's a perfectly normal gesture for ordinary people, but up until just a little while ago I couldn't do it at all. Right now, I'm able to do it without any problems. Even when the doctor is looking straight at me, my racing heart doesn't make me lose my breath, and the dizziness doesn't darken my vision. Even I have noticed the good results. My heart has gotten significantly stronger since I started taking this prescription a few months ago.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you.
今までどんな治療を受けても全然いい感じにならなかったのに、
Up until now, I never felt good no matter what treatment I received.
あの薬のおかげで近頃はなんとなく景色が広くなったっていうか、
But
明るく見えるんです。
But thanks to this medicine, it feels like the world around me has gotten wider these days. Looks so bright.
あ、変なこと言ってすみません。
Sorry for saying something weird.
つまりその
What I mean is,
いいんですよ。
it's alright.
素直に感じたまま話してくれる方が、こちらも状態を理解しやすくなりますから。
It's easier for me to understand your condition when you speak your feelings honestly.
視界が広く明るくなったのはいい傾向です。
Having a wider and brighter worldview is a good inclination.
それだけ頭と心に余裕が出てきた証拠ですからね。
It's proof that you have room in your head and in your heart for more of the world. I myself was surprised by sudden laughter coming out of my mouth. It's been such a long time since I let out such a natural, spontaneous laugh. Did I just have this mouse stuck there? Oh my god. I couldn't even see it against the background there. How unprofessional of me. Tears came spilling from my eyes after that laughter. For such a long time, I felt like I had to live with this depression, and it drove me to deep darkness and despair. No matter what I saw, said, or did, an unfathomable fatigue enveloped my whole body. At times, I almost even lost the will to go on living. But that painful, heavy baggage was finally fading from within me. I couldn't see anything when I was in that deep darkness, but now I could finally see a small but sure light right in front of me.
私
Doctor, I...
ほらほら、泣いてはいけませんよ。
There, no need to cry.
あなたはこの2ヶ月、本当によく頑張りました。
You've been doing a really good job these past two days, or
心
months.
が元気を取り戻せば、きっと元通りの生活に戻れます。
Once your heart is healed, I'm sure you'll be able to go back to living a normal life.
だから、笑顔になって。ね。
So go ahead and smile, alright?
あと少し、慌てず焦らず、ゆっくり一緒に頑張りましょう。
Just a little longer. There's no need to panic or rush, so let's slowly work through this together.
はい
Right. After saying that, the doctor gently rubbed my back while I trembled from the sobbing. It was warm and soft, a very gentle touch. I'm glad. Really, I'm so glad. I was anxious about it first, but I decided to take the medicine she recommended for me.
Hi.
Yes?
例の中学生の患者さんですが、非常に素晴らしい回復ぶりです。
The middle school student has shown excellent recovery.
血液検査の数値も通常値にかなり近づき、脈拍や発汗量も安定してきました。
Her blood test results are very close to normal, and her heart rate and sweat rate have stabilized.
最初の頃は少し突っ込んだ問診をしただけで発作状態に陥っていたのですが、近頃は自分の思考内容をかなり正確に把握して、会話も整合性がはっきりと見られます。
In the beginning, she was spasming after just a few short questions, but nowadays, she's able to grasp her own thoughts fairly accurately. The consistency is clearly visible in conversation with her.
若干感情の起伏の制御に苦しんでいるようですが、心理テストも極端な結果を出すことがなくなりましたし、近日中に日常生活へ復帰させてもほぼ問題はないかと。
Seems she still struggles somewhat with controlling her emotional ups and downs, but the psychological tests are no longer showing extreme results. She probably won't have any problems returning to daily life in the near future.
いえいえ、私のカウンセリングは通常通りで特別なものは用いておりません。
Oh no, my counseling is completely ordinary. I didn't use anything special.
やはり先生にご紹介していただいた試薬が治療につながったのだと思います。
I believe this successful treatment is a result of the regent you introduced me to.
それにしても、今回の試薬を用いて臨床試験を行った患者は4人目になりますが、彼女を合わせて3人が社会復帰ともなれば十分な効能性です。
Even so, this is now the fourth patient to have undergone clinical trials using this regent, so with the other two patients who have managed to achieve social reintegration, I think that's sufficient to prove its efficacy.
私の知り合いの医師も効き目の良さに驚いておりましたし、この調子で今回の臨床データが集まれば、慎重になっている薬事審議会の委員さんもきっと納得してくれますよ。
Other doctors I know were surprised by how effective it was. If we assemble the clinical data on this, I'm certain the Pharmaceutical Affairs Council members will be convinced.
え?
Huh?
その残る一人の反応ですか?
The reaction of the remaining one?
そうですね。効き目がないというわけではないのですが、少々気になる症状が見られましたので、服用時の心身状態を確認した上で再度投与を行う予定です。
Right. It's not that it isn't effective, but I have observed some worrisome symptoms, so I plan to re-administer after confirming the psychosomatic state at the time of administration.
おそらく別の薬との併用で起こった事例だとは思うのですが、場合によってはその臨床結果をアラートとして製薬会社に提出させていただきます。
I think it's probably something that happened in combination with some other drug. Depending on the situation, we may submit their clinical results to the pharmaceutical company as a cautionary alert.
あ、もちろんその資料は正規の臨床データからは除外しておきますので。
Oh, that information will be excluded from the official clinical data, of course.
いえ、その報告はこの電話ではまだ申し上げられません。
No, I'm sorry, but I can't speak about the report over the phone.
あまりに突発的で、この薬の副作用かどうかも現状では判別しかねますので、もう少しお時間をいただけますか?
It's still too soon, so it's hard to tell if it's a side effect of the drug at the moment. Could you please give us a little more time?
万一の場合は真っ先に先生にお知らせいたします。
In case of emergency, I'll notify you immediately.
それでは。
Thanks.
薬の成分的には絶対に起こりえないはずなんだけど。
Based on the components of the drug, it should be absolutely impossible.
服用後に幻覚を見るなんてのは。
How could someone start seeing hallucinations after taking it? Why am I getting all sniffly all of a sudden? It's Higurashi, I'm telling you, man. Alright, what do we got next? We just read this, right? Yeah. First day at the public relations office. A dark corridor stretched out in front of me as I stepped off the elevator. Looking at that, I was more than just worried. I was so afraid I couldn't help but flinch. Oh, is this when she was sent to the PR, like, job thing?
本当にここで会っているのよ ね
This really is the place, right? As I quietly muttered that to myself, this hallway with no signs of human activity felt cold, and a creepy feeling welled up inside me. The fluorescent lights were blinking and flashing like they were about to go out. The linoleum floor let out a high-pitched echo with every step I took. I could hear the hum of the air conditioner, or some other mechanical noise. It was harsh and irritating. Even back in my college days, when I headed to the university research building in the dead of night to pick up something from the lost and found, it wasn't quite this terrifying a sight. This went far beyond just cutting costs. It was enough to put you on a true test of courage. Do the facility's personnel hold some animosity toward the department stationed on this floor? Or is it because upper management deems them unimportant? The stagnant atmosphere was so heavy that I exhaled multiple deep breaths while holding my rapidly beating chest. I wanted to turn around immediately and head back to the ground floor if possible, but if my new workplace was through here, my only option was to keep moving forward. But in the end, maybe I should have asked someone to escort me there.
それにしても
Even so, in addition to the worry that weakened my knees, something felt off. When I heard public relations office, I imagined a facility with a big mascot outside the entrance with posters on display and pamphlets available for visitors. In fact, when I came down on a previous trip for an interview, it was on the second floor of the National Police Agency building in a clean, bright office that was open to the public. There was a showroom with exhibits on display, and a group of elementary school students were being led on a tour by a smiling female police officer. So, partly resigning myself to believing I'd also be working with kids like that more often, and partly trying to change my mindset to fit in with that, I called out to one of the staff members, but...
今度前の室長のところに配属になった方ですね
Ah, you're the one assigned to Director Maino's office.
あなたの事務室は地下1階になります
Your office is on the first basement level.
東奥のエレベーターから降りて突き当たりの部屋ですよ
Take the east elevator in the back, and the room is around there.
地下
Basement?
どういうことなんだろ
What's the meaning of this? I had no particular objections to working in a damp, dim, musty place, even if it was depressing. But somehow, that seemed odd. Since this is the public relations office, our main responsibility is to respond to various media reports and provide information to the general public. This was a police organization with the most reason to come into contact with the public, so why was the workplace such a pigsty?
うしかも異常なほどの厳重なセキュリティだ
Plus, the security is unusually strict. I gently turned my gaze up toward the ceiling. There was a surveillance camera pointed right this way. Plus, I suddenly noticed a door in the middle of the hallway leading to an emergency staircase and tried turning the knob. It was locked from the other side, which meant that this corner of the first floor basement could only be reached through the elevator I just rode.
まるで悪の組織の秘密基地ね
It's like the secret lair of some evil organization. I tried to describe it with an outlandish metaphor, but it actually felt exactly right, so I quickly chased that thought away. Before long, I found a plate on a door near the end of the hallway that read Public Relations Office, so I caught my breath. Then, after confirming that a light was on inside, I knocked and then opened the door. Whoa. The moment I stepped inside, an odor like walking into a library tickled my nose. There were tall bookshelves lined up in rows, as far as the eye could see, and they were packed with files and books.
ここが広報室
This is the Public Relations Office? I gasped at the volume of books that made it easy to mistake this place for a reference room. The spine of each file contained a date and prefecture name, along with their own number. And then... After squeezing through the narrow gap between the bookcases and reaching the back, I found myself in a slightly open area. There were several office desks and a reception area, a long sofa with someone sleeping on it with a blanket over his head, snoring.
あの
Excuse me. Just as I approached to call out to him, I suddenly held my nose at the intense stench. The smell of cigarettes, coffee, and alcohol was emanating from his entire body. There was also a mix of body odor hidden with cologne in there, and it was foul. Airflow.
空調はどこ
Where's the air conditioning? I held my breath to avoid inhaling the odor that was making me teary-eyed, and looked around for any signs of ventilation. Then I found an air conditioner near the wall, turned it up to the max, and finally took a breath.
死ぬかと思った。
I thought I was going to die. Perhaps due to the loud mechanical noise, the man sleeping on the sofa had woken up and began fixing his messy hair. Hey, wait. There's small white specks scattered all around. Is that dandruff? Ew.
誰だこんな朝早く
Who is it? Who is it coming us early in the morning?
朝早くってもう1時過ぎですよ。
Early in the morning? It's past 1 p.m. I knew I was just a stranger, but I couldn't help but chime in. There's no way you can describe it as early morning when it's past noon. Then after hearing that, he checked his wristwatch and let out a big yawn while fixing his hair once more.
やめて。
Stop that!
もうそれ以上老け立てないで。
Don't spread any more dandruff. My spine was shaken with a completely different fear from before, but still, I remembered the common sense of male-dominated society and somehow held back my desire to flee. And then, I cleared my throat, adjusted myself, and turned toward him with some distance between us.
本日付で広報部に配属となりました。南井智恵です。
My name is Tomoe Manai. I've been assigned to the Public Relations Department as of today.
愛知県警下記内署出向よりこちらに移動いたしました。
I was transferred here from Kakuchi Station in Aichi Prefecture.
よろしくお願いします。
It's nice to meet you.
ああそういや今日来るって話だったな。
Ah, right. I did hear about someone coming today.
で名前は
What did you say your name was?
南井智恵です。
Tomoe Manai. I held back the urge to tell him I just said it and repeated my name again. As soon as he heard that, he looked back at me with his eyes open wide, and he yawned again and stretched in a completely rude manner, and stood up while cracking his neck.
あれ？
Huh? He looked familiar. Felt like he was someone I'd met face to face in the past few months. So, he must be...
前の室長ですよね。
Excuse me, are you Director Maino?
なんだ
What's that?
もう忘れたのか俺の顔。
You've already forgotten my face?
いえ。
No. I muttered to myself that it would have been better if I had forgotten while squinting my eyes. I'm certain that the Maino-san I met at my previous interview is a far more dignified-looking human being. He gave the impression of a capable man dressed in a nice suit, worthy of the title elite. But now, this was a little more... like an unshaven old man dressed in a dirty tracksuit.
とにかく着任のご承認をいただけますでしょうか。
Anyway, would you please give your authorization for my new post?
ああよっと
Sure. After saying that, Maino-san gently walked toward me and casually grabbed the transfer letter I was holding out. And then he pulled a stamp from a drawer that was probably at his desk and stamped it in the approval column without even checking the contents and left the document there.
それで私の机はどれでしょうか。
So, which desk is mine?
ああそこにある机どれでも使え。
Right. Can use any desk you like over there.
全部空き机だから。
They're all unoccupied.
全部空きって。じゃあ広報室って私と前野さん2人だけなんですか？
All unoccupied. Maino-san, are you telling me you and I are the only two people in the public relations office?
いやいや他の連中はみんな2階の広報ルームだ。
No, everyone else is stationed in the public relations room on the second floor.
この部屋で働くのが俺とお前というわけだ。
You and I are the only ones working in this room.
室長直属だ。嬉しいだろう。
You're acting directly under the director. Isn't that great?
最高です。
Extremely. Not at all. On paper, it sounds nice to be working directly with your boss, but basically that means I'm being trusted as his personal secretary. This treatment was completely unexpected and making me dizzy. There's nothing to enjoy about this. Not at all.
さて
Now then,
俺はちょいと出てくる
I have a little something to take care of.
見ないだったな
Minai, was it?
お前明日朝までにあの資料を清書しておいてくれ
I need you to make a clean copy of that material by tomorrow morning. Huh? A towering pile of documents sat on the desk in the direction Maino-san pointed. It was a tremendous volume. Did he expect me to go through that in a single day's work?
なんだ
What is it?
お前筆記に自信ないのか
Are you not confident in your writing?
あります。
No, I am.
明日の朝までですね。
By tomorrow morning, then.
わかりました。
Understood.
うん頼んだぞ
I'm relying on you.
そんじゃな
See you then.
どちらへ？
Where are you going?
ちょいと酔いざましに
Going to sober up a bit.
だからどちらへ？
Where are you actually going?
新宿
Shinjuku.
ちょいと馬券買ってくるわ
Heading out to buy some horse racing tickets. What? I was too stunned to say anything as Manai-san, see, now I always do that. Maino-san left the room, still dressed in his tracksuit. And then, I was the only one left behind in this messy room. Don't give me this bullshit. I was ready to scream out full of rage, but I swallowed those words. Somehow, rather than thinking this was an elaborate joke, my intuition told me this must be a test Maino-san set out for me.
よし。
Alright. I claimed one of the desks and took a seat, then began looking through the pile of papers. So be it. Just watch me. I'll definitely prove to him that I'm not some weakling who loses motivation at something like this. Like hell I'll lose.
あの目ほんとそっくりだぜ
Those eyes really do look exactly the same.
やっぱり親子だな
Like father, like daughter, after all. Alright, I'm gonna have to take a quick water break here. Give me a quick second. I'm waiting for that to pop. Okay, I'll be back very shortly. Give me a couple minutes here. Alright, I'm back. Let me see this. Alright, what's next here? New semester and ...
こんな晴れやかな気分で空を見上げたのは何年ぶりかな。
How many years has it been since I looked up at the sky in such a cheerful mood? I took a deep breath that filled my chest as I gazed up at the bright blue sky. The warm air had a sweet scent to it. It was really refreshing and very comfortable. Lovely springtime weather. It's like it was celebrating my new life. Or maybe that's exaggerating a little.
よし、大丈夫。
Alright, this is fine. As I walked out the door and headed down the road toward the school, I put a hand on my chest to check my heartbeat. It wasn't beating out of control. I didn't feel any chills or cold sweats. My heart was very calm. I always felt anxious and dizzy anytime I stepped outside, but now I didn't feel any of that heaviness or suffocation. My shoulders, my feet, my whole body felt as light as a feather.
あれ？
Huh?
ひょっとしてあの子？
By any chance, is that girl?
うんそうだよ。
Yeah, that's right.
でもまさか
But there's no way. I passed by some other kids in uniforms along the way. Shortly afterwards, I felt their skin-piercing gazes and the whispers of their voices. Just a little while ago, that sort of noise brought me unbearable pain. My heart started beating intensely whenever I felt them staring, and chills ran through my body with every step I took. I'd think about the rumors spreading about me, and a huge amount of sweat would come pouring down my face and flowing down my back. Then I'd start feeling dizzy until I fainted. So, couldn't go walking around outside by myself. Didn't like talking to people or seeing their faces. But now, I didn't feel all that at all. Did I read that right? But now, I didn't feel that at all. Somehow, it felt like I was dreaming. It was like I was walking somewhere unreal, and I could just ignore the things I didn't like as if they weren't there at all. Unpleasant sights, sounds, and other senses. That obnoxious garbage was just a faint specter, and my world was only made up of the things that were beneficial for me.
そう気にしない。
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about.
考えすぎなければいいんだ。
You're fine as long as you don't overthink it. People around me weren't focusing their attention on me in particular. And even when they did look at me, I didn't care because they were just part of the background. Yeah, they're like stones on the side of the road. Like weeds growing quietly in the shade. If they don't say anything, it's like they're not there at all. Thinking about it like that, it's fine. And thanks to the power of the medicine that doctor gave me, I was able to turn my way of thinking around. That's right. It was the same with that incident that resulted in me holding myself up at home. If I just dealt with everything like I am now, it never would have played out that way. Even though they came at me with scissors, if I'd ignored it, they would have lost interest and left me alone. Yes, as long as you don't get involved with others, nothing will ever happen. You don't have to worry about anything. And I'm sure the other kids feel the same way. Even the kid who teased me with the scissors. Even the kid who got hurt. Classmates who were silently watching all around, the teacher, everyone. They prefer to pretend nothing happened at all for their own reasons. So, I decided I'd pretend it never happened either. That's okay. That should be fine. I'm sure of it. Okay. Okay. Ignorance, ignorance. It never happened. A fragment of Somietsushi. Somietsushi was... One sec. Okay, yeah, that was the one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at my chart here. Okay. Oh. This is a special fragment born from a process of creating Onigakushi, Watanagashi, and Tataragoshi. The sad tragedy that befell Natsumi Kimiyoshi, girl who bore the blood of the three families, trying to live a life outside of Hinamazawa. And the trigger for it all was a series of small misunderstandings. However, they piled up, causing the discontent and anxiety she had been keeping hidden until that moment to suddenly explode. She was consumed by murderous bloodlust. Ever since she moved to this new town, she secretly harbored an inferiority complex toward the people around her. Just a small sense of not fitting in, a difference in values, and a feeling of inferiority can cause a person to feel alienated and become lonely. I wonder if you yourself have ever faced such an experience. However, by the end of this tragedy, a tiny hope we had not anticipated was born. It was a little different from Fragments, smaller and more fleeting. At first, it couldn't even be called a lump. Nevertheless, as time went on, it gained a certain power. And that power... No. That power... Okay. A fragment of Higurashi. Have all these sad stories broken your heart? Ah, many times over. Then this fragment is something of a refreshing side dish served between main courses. A cutout of the happy everyday life preceding Wada Nagashi before the tragedy unfolds. It was a lively escapade involving the club members, Tomatake, Irie, and even Takano. However, seems the one here is merely a copy of the original fragment, and so it takes on a slightly different shape and color. Perhaps you could find the real fragment somewhere out there. And if you do find it, would you kindly let me know? Very interested to know what it was like. Okay. Alright, that's first page done. Look at that, we're blazing. Blistering pace. So I'm just like looking ahead. Spoilers. A fragment of Kageboshi. With this fragment, you can grasp one piece of the truth. But on the other hand, it means facing a new mystery that you never imagined, doesn't it? At last, Kasuga and his companions notice there's something more to this calamity, and the chain of tragedies could no longer be stopped. And the hope born from Somitsushi was viciously robbed of its light, erased without a trace. In the end, someone with enormous power obstructed their investigation and forced them to withdraw, so it could never be called a happy ending. However, to be so thoroughly obstructed also means they drew near that enemy's weak point. Unfortunately, can't say I know what that actually is, but you should have caught a glimpse of the fact that this tragedy was not the work of a curse. And despite the dark shadow of Hinamizawa, and the sad past hidden there that Natsumi had been suffering from, she was finally able to understand what she truly needed. Through so many sacrifices, by the grace of their kindness, the world she thought was so cold began to warm up without her even noticing. So, though she was still haunted by regret and a guilty conscience, she decided to move forward. I'm sure that sight brought Kasuga and the others hope. That's what I choose to believe. A fragment of Yoyoshi. This fragment was made by combining the shattered debris of Sumihoroboshi. Oh man, we read this one like months ago, right? With 4 young people of questionable character and an even more mysterious middle-aged woman. This is a tale of a Midsummer Night's Dream in 2006, where they spent the night in an old abandoned building in the corner of a ghost town. He was worried about the future. She was suffering from the past. He was running away. She had been always waiting. And a cheerful female reporter was there too. Somehow, her face looked familiar. That's right. That was his daughter, Come to think of it, seemed he passed a strong will onto her in those beautiful eyes. In fact, she came to Hinamizawa for an important purpose. There, she discovered something that could unravel the truth. And the person she passed that knowledge on to is... retaliation for failure. So drastic sounding. I couldn't remember how I got here. When I came back to my senses, I noticed the asphalt had turned to soil, and I was surrounded on all sides by the greenery of trees. This is a park? I raised my drunken head to take a look around. People were scarce. People were scarce, and not a single one of them was looking at me. Scarce. You're scared? I don't really care. I found a decent looking patch of grass and took a seat, then laid down and looked up at the sky. A blue sky with white clouds. It was a calm, refreshing view, but for me right now, it was a painful, ironic, vexatious presence. Damn it! Piece of shit! Without even thinking, I swore out loud while tearing at the weeds around me. Everything was perfect. There was no need to worry about anything. Plan should have been a guaranteed success. For the longest time, upper management supported sacrificing the target and performing the ritual according to the manual. Preparations were made, personnel were assigned, and surrounding movements were being monitored specifically for that purpose. And then, on the night of Nagashi, the ceremony to mark the beginning went as planned, and the finale was to commence as soon as the target was secured. And yet, despite all that, a single anomaly caused everything to fall apart. No, it was far worse than that. Everything that had been supporting me was ruined. It's all a downright lie? All of my grandfather's research. Is that her nonsense? Every time I thought about it, I felt a burning impulse in my mind and in my heart. I should have struck harder. If all I was going to do was leave in low spirits and weep without saying a word, I should have attacked with all my emotional force behind me. That regret enraged me, and the tears wouldn't stop even now. A few days after the night of Nagashi, the missing body of Rika Furude was discovered in an old well in the basement of the Sonozaki estate, and what's more, a considerable amount of time had passed since her murder, clearly more than 48 hours. There was no need to wait for precise autopsy results. She was almost certainly killed the day after Nagashi and thrown to the bottom of the well. As a result, the village was thrown into chaos completely different from the violence we expected. Small town schoolgirl's midsummer murder. Curse of Oyashiro-sama strikes again. The mass media wrote amusing stories about these incidents, and Hinamizawa was exposed to the eyes of the public day after day. And what's more, with the death of all the leaders of the three families causing the village to rapidly lose its unified strength, the plan to abandon the village that had been put on hold years ago was re-entering the center stage. Even so, we were desperately trying to turn things around, but we were very limited in what we could do thanks to the police presence and the tremendous interest from the public. It was hopeless. And...
女王感染者が死ぬと48時間以内に村人全員が異常行動を引き起こす。
If the queen carrier dies, all villagers will begin behaving abnormally within 48 hours.
故にその被害の余波が周辺地域に広がる前に部隊を派遣して速やかに予防措置を取るべき。
Thus, troops should be dispatched and prompt preventative measures taken to prevent the damage from spreading to the surrounding areas.
緊急マニュアルにはそう記載されていたかと思うのですが。
Isn't that what was stated in the emergency manual?
そうです。
Yes, that's right.
確かにおじいちゃん、高野先生はそう仮定を立てておられました。
It's true that my grandfather, Professor Takano hypothesized as much.
その根拠は外国の同様の事例に従ったもので、非常に説得力があると皆さんもおっしゃってくださったではありませんか。
And everyone said it was a compelling argument based on similar cases observed in foreign countries, didn't they?
でも現実にはご覧の通りです。
But, as you can clearly see, this is the reality.
もし本当に女王感染者の死が彼らに影響を及ぼしているのだとしたら、行方不明か否かにかかわらず、その死から48時間が経過した時点で異常が発生しているはず。
If the Queen's death actually did have an effect on them, it should have happened within 48 hours of her death, regardless if she had gone missing or not.
しかし女王感染者が死んだ後も村人は誰一人異常をきたしておりませんでしたし、村は至って平穏なものです。
However, none of the villagers were behaving abnormally after the Queen's death. In fact, the village was in an extremely peaceful state.
確かにあまりの惨劇に直面して皆動揺してはいますが、それはあくまで常識の範囲内。
It's true that everyone was upset by the major tragedy they were facing, but that's all within common sense.
危ないところでした。
That was a close call.
こんな妄言に踊らされて村人に処置を施していたら、我々はとんでもない大量殺戮によってこの手を血に染めてしまっているところでしたよ。
If we let ourselves dance to the tune of that insane delusion and exterminate the villagers, we would have stained our hands with the blood of a mass-scale genocide. Damn. He clicked his tongue after saying that while slamming the file in his hands down to the floor. The other people lined up beside him had the same look on their faces. Contempt, pity, and hatred and rage for the one who deceived them.
待ってください。
Please wait!
異常行動の発生は起こる。今後必ず起きます。
The anomalous behavior will still occur. I'm sure it'll happen in the future.
ただ、その発生にタイムラグが生じているだけなんです。
There's just a time lag before it happens.
高野先生の研究調書に
Oh, she's
間違い
spiraling.
はないんです。
Professor Takano's research is not mistaken.
お願いです。信じてください。
Please, believe me.
とりあえず入江機関にはこの件について報告書の提出を求めます。
For the time being, we've requested the Erie Institute submit a report on this matter.
それからプロジェクトに対しての見直しを。
And then the project will be subject to review.
研究の主軸である対象が死亡してしまったのですから当然の処置だと思いますが。
With the primary subject of the research deceased, I think it's a natural course of action.
そんな。
It can't be. She's taking it well. Yes, it's all over. The research that my grandfather and I dedicated our lives to. Everything we clenched our teeth and endured for decades had been denied. As of now, my passion and my soul had disappeared, leaving me an empty shell. There was no longer anyone left to mourn for it. I had thrown it all away. By my own hands. Huh? That moment. I suddenly remembered that faint voice I had heard and looked in the direction it came from. There was a boy and a girl standing in the grass before the trees. Those children. That was the older sister of Shion Sonozaki, who caused the entire incident, Mion. And that was her friend, Keiichi Maibara. Yeah.
なかなか盛大に遊び回ったな。
We sure had one hell of a time, huh?
面白かった。
Ah, it's so much fun.
あんなにゲームで遊んだの本当に久しぶりだよ。
It's been a long time since I played so many games at once. The two of them were happily speaking loudly with bright smiles on their faces. It was an awkward exchange between kids of that age who weren't yet ready to call themselves a couple, but the scene was full of happiness. Even in Hinamazawa, I had seen a scene like that so many times before. Every time I smiled just a little and...
お前、全部初めてって言ってたけど、それ本当か？
You told me it was your first time seeing those, but were you serious?
初プレイで2台もハイスコアに名前入れるなんて、とんでもない実力だぜ。
You got 2 high scores on your first time playing. You're unbelievable.
4台の間違いだよ、ケイちゃん。
Tisk tisk tisk. That was actually 4, Key-chan.
こういうのはセンスと勘、そして動体視力がものを言うのさ。
These games are all about sense, intuition, and having great eyesight.
普段の鍛錬を怠らなかった成果だよ。
It's all thanks to never neglecting my everyday discipline.
むしろケイちゃんはアドバンテージをひっくり返されたことを恥と思うべきだね。
More importantly, Kichan, shouldn't you be feeling ashamed of having your advantage used against you?
おいおい、ちょっと待てよ。
Hey, whoa, hold it right there.
エアホッケーの時とか。あれ何なんて後ろを指さして顔を向けた瞬間打ち込んできたのは反則だろ。
Remember how you distracted me by randomly pointing somewhere during air hockey and saying, "Look, what's that?" That's against the rules.
まったく容赦のないやつだぜ。
You're goddamn brutal.
勝てば官軍、負ければ賊軍だよ。
Winner takes all, losers gotta fall, right? How irritating. Frustration and hatred welled up inside me for no reason. Why? Why are these kids able to laugh like that after this tragedy? Even though they'd endured terrible misfortune, they could still enjoy the day like they're in the height of prosperity? Even though they expended no effort and no deep thoughts, putting up no resistance to the flow of just being tossed about by it. Even though they were frightened by the curse and wildly dancing to it. Yeah, that's right. Come to think of it, that's true. The reason Shion Sonozaki went berserk in the first place was because of the unusual policy of the Sonozaki family. They always acted the part of the mastermind even though they never did anything. Even though they had no power, they continued to dominate people around them with threats that were no more than empty bluffs. And so, Shion Sonozaki was terrified of breaking their commandments. So rather than being killed by the person acting as the mastermind, she killed, and killed some more. And the result was how things turned out now. It's all because of them. If they hadn't driven that girl so far, at the very least, if they'd been kept in check, everything would have been settled peacefully. And yet, despite that, they didn't even know their sin. They don't feel it themselves. Ugh. Nasty. My throat was itchy. The pain wouldn't go away no matter how much I scratched at it. Quite the opposite. I felt an impulse gushing out from within. My vision flickered. This pain is... Yes, that's right. That's one of the symptoms. In the end, it happened. It happened, didn't it? Now, watch, you foolish and shallow people. In the end, my grandfather's research was right. He was right.
今何時ぐらい?
Oh yeah, what time is it now?
5時くらいかな。
It's around 5 p.m. now, I guess.
じゃあ夕食まであと少しだね。
Oh, that's not long before we have dinner, right?
どこかで食べて帰る?
Where do you want to go before we leave?
そうだな。ファーストフードでハンバーガーなんてどうだ?
How about fast food, like hamburgers or something?
おお、いいね。
Oh, sounds nice.
その前にちょっと失礼。
Before we go, just excuse me for a bit. Now, I'll prove it. I myself, right here with my own 2 hands.
こんにちは。
Why, hello there. Huh?
こんにちは。
Oh, hello. What? Oh.
あれ、ケイちゃん寝ちゃったの?
My, Ki-chan. Don't tell me you fell asleep.
もうしょうがないな。
Wow, this is pathetic.
女の子とのデート中に居眠りなんてエチケット違反だよ。
It's not very gentlemanly to doze off on a date with a girl, you know. Oh, wow.
ケイちゃん?
Ki-chan.
もういつまで寝てるんだよ。
Seriously, how long are you going to be out?
ほら、起きて。
Come on, wake up.
ケイちゃん?
Ki-chan?
は？
No. Well. Excuse me, ma'am?
なに?
What is it?
何か用かしら?
You need something? No, just searching for you. You haven't been to the clinic for a while now, have you? And you haven't gone home.
別に
Whatever.
どうでもいいでしょ。
Doesn't matter.
ちゃんと報告書は約束の期日までに提出するわよ。
I'll be sure to submit the report by the deadline.
それで問題ないんでしょ。
So there's no problem, right? No, there's a big problem.
え?
Huh? We received orders from up top to take the best strategy. Well, the harbor isn't far from here. Don't you think that would be a good place to never be found?
何の話よ。
What are you saying?
ちょっとどこへ。
Oh, hold on, where are... See how it is now? Hinamizawa syndrome never existed to begin with. Can't have you unearthing it when we're putting it all behind us. Wow. Well. Shirakawa Mountain Villa siege incident. Don't mind if I do. One day in February 1970. 5 minutes left. After verifying the time on his wristwatch, Yamaoki turned back, checked the facial expressions of the riot police lined up there. They stood in total silence, and every one of them had a sharp look in their eyes. Their faces were hidden behind their protective helmets, but they were filled with anger and a sense of purpose toward their mission, while standing with their bulletproof shields overlapping and their batons in hand. Yes. Alright. Upon seeing that, Yamaoki readied himself as well and turned forward once again. Right before his eyes was a privately owned resort facility, Shirakawa Mountain Villa. It was a small building, named after the magnificent birch forest nearby, but the steep cliff-like slope of the mountain behind it gave it a nice view overlooking the distant Shinshu Mountains. In other words, the besieged criminals could overlook the entire hillside where Yamaoki and his men were standing in wait, which is why even though they had conducted 2 raids on the facility, the criminals successfully repelled both attacks.
一昨日に行われた突撃作戦などひどかった。
The raid 2 days ago was absolutely terrible. They rushed in through the drainage canal, but the poor weather made their tear gas grenades unusable, and on top of that, they had no means to fight back because use of firearms was prohibited. Riot police captain in charge of the raid even died in the attack. Thus, even though he was originally assigned to the rear guard, 2nd Division Captain Yamaoki became appointed as field commander since he had experience leading the riot police in the T University siege incident 1 year prior.
それにしても逃亡の果て、何も考えずに窮地でこの山荘を選んだのだろうが、厄介なものだ。
Still, probably chose this mountain villa after escaping without even thinking about it. But even so, this is a tough one. A siege defense is the best defense tactic for dealing with a disadvantage in numbers, and on top of that, topography also presented disadvantages that made attack difficult, so it would be very demanding to launch a raid without sacrifices. And what's more, not only did they have hostages, but the assailants robbed a gun shop during their escape, so they were armed too. It was so cunning that even Yamaoki, who had dealt with similar situations before, couldn't help but click his tongue in irritation. Meanwhile, 1st Division squad members who experienced a fellow officer being killed were ready to beat the criminals to death if given permission. Really, the fact that there was so little confusion even with a sudden change in command was evidence of the intense hostility they felt toward the criminal group.
もっとも、警察が憎しみによって行動しているわけがない。
But the police mustn't act out of hatred.
それでは凶悪犯と同じだ。
Otherwise, they're no different from thugs. Plus, as a member of the Metropolitan Police Department and acting under the National Police Agency, protecting the hostages and apprehending the perpetrators alive was Yamaoki's strict duty. And that wasn't just for humanitarian reasons. It was to prevent the criminals from being deified as martyrs who died standing up to authority, and to keep other extremist groups from looking up to them and seeing them as a reason to expand their activities. Additionally, people have a strong tendency to criticize police officers for shooting indiscriminately, so if one of the criminals was injured by gunfire, the firing a fit officer might be accused of criminal activity. It's ironic, but the dignity of the police force suffers when they're accused of breaking the law. When told about it that way, Yamaoki had no choice but to obey. Time went by as he pondered that to himself, and before long, the minute hand was pointing straight at 10 o'clock. The next moment, Yamaoki was barking into the transceiver in hand with a small but sharp voice. Special vehicle team, commence the operation! Roger! The moment he gave that signal, a crane truck cleverly hidden in a mountain recess emerged from the trees and began approaching the mountain villa. And hanging from the tip of the crane's huge arm was a massive iron ball, better known as a wrecking ball. A special vehicle typically used for demolishing buildings that had been borrowed from a nearby construction company. And its role today was... Whoa! Yeah! Here we go, music. A sudden roar echoed out, and the entire building shook as the criminals inside were violently shaken and fell to the ground. Was that an earthquake? No, that's not it. This is... One man looked out through the barricaded window and groaned as soon as he realized the source of that quake. What he saw before his eyes was the shadow of a massive ball of iron, unlike anything he'd ever seen before. And it was letting out a colossal roar like while heading this way again. It's going to hit us! Run! Forgetting to even bother shooting back, the criminals panicked and fled the area. The next moment, the barricade was blown away with a sound like a bomb going off. Thanks to the impact of that blow, 2 people were struck by the wall and fainted in agony. You bastards! Do you not even care that there are hostages in here? That's not it. The police must know the hostages aren't in this part of the building. Right. Thanks to intel, a suicide court found while investigating under the cover of darkness, Yamaoki already knew that the criminal group was stationed on the 3rd floor, while the hostages were on the 2nd. Based on that, they obtained blueprints of the mountain villa and carefully examined them to determine the best locations and angles to use the wrecking ball. First location damage was chosen to prevent them from using the window to launch a counterattack. And next... What? Once again, the criminals staggered and fell to the ground from the intense vibrations, and gasped when they saw the destruction right before them. What was destroyed this time was the staircase leading to the 2nd floor. It became a total wreck, and it was no longer possible for even a single person to slip through there. Special Vehicle Corp, reporting in! We've successfully crushed the 3rd floor stairwell. Alright, begin the 2nd phase. A water cannon trucks surround the villa on all sides. Riot Squad number 4, prepare to fire tear gas. Water cannons 1 through 3 are ready by and standing by. Squad 4 is in firing position. Awaiting your orders. Squad 4, commence tear gas bombardment. Squad 3. Squad 3, rush in as soon as the volley is fired and secure the entrance barricade. Go! Yeah. 2 offenders on the 1st floor have been apprehended after firing on us. 1 squad member was wounded, but injuries are minor. This is Squad 3. We have secured the hostages. They're safe and alive. The landlord standing behind Yamaoki immediately broke down and started crying as soon as he heard that report. One of the hostages was his wife. It was still far too soon to rejoice, but that news alone was enough to put his heart at ease. Just then... Squad 1, what happened? Maino, what's going on? It was a moment of carelessness. As Squad 2 emerged from the slope of the mountainside to break the barrier on the 1st floor, Squad 1, led by Mino, passed by them and used a ladder to invade the 3rd floor. And then, they found the room where the criminals were holed up, and the moment they all prepared themselves for a simultaneous assault. Another one of the criminals, who just happened to be taking care of something else, emerged from behind them. Ah! The armed gunman screamed and pulled the trigger the moment he saw the riot police. Mino was commanding the group from behind, and regrettably, as he turned around, the bullet shot straight through the kneecap on his right leg. Captain! All strength drained from his leg, Mino collapsed to the ground in agony. Squad members in the back rushed to cover him with their bulletproof shields, but their movement was delayed because they turned their attention toward the noises coming from the room. Shit, this is it for me. Mino watched as the criminal pointed the gun toward his head, then closed his eyes. And then, a dry, explosive pop came from behind. Following that, Mino heard something falling to the floor in front of him and opened his eyes again.
No.
What? The criminal had fallen to the ground, wasn't moving. And, source of the gunshot behind him.
Minai-san.
Minai-san.
第2より指揮者へ
Command car, this is Squad 2.
3階制圧完了
We've taken control of the 3rd floor.
犯人は1名を除いて全員逮捕しました
All but one of the perpetrators have been arrested.
1名を除いて
All but one?
その1名はどうした
What happened to the other one?
申し訳ありません
I'm sorry.
犯人グループのうち1名が部屋を離れて紹介に当たっていて背後を取られました
One of the criminals had left the room to go on patrol. Came at us from behind.
それに狙われた私を守るため部下見ない警部補が発砲
He was aiming his sights at me, so one of my subordinates, Deputy Inspector Minai, fired back.
撃たれた対象は現時点で心肺停止状態です
Target was shot and is currently in a state of cardiac arrest. Yamoki couldn't help but sigh after hearing that report. He didn't lament his subordinate's mistake. He cursed his own failure to come up with an appropriate strategy, which gave him no choice but to act accordingly.
やはり陽動をかけて一箇所に注意を向けさせていればよかったか
I knew it. I wish you'd carried out a feint operation to keep all their attention on a single place. Although, even if they carried out a feint operation, leader of the attack would be in danger of getting sniped by the criminals. 2 agents had already lost their lives, and 1 more was still in a critical situation, so strong measures had to be taken to ensure there would be no more sacrifices.
それで前の
Then Mino,
君の方は無事か
are you safe?
すみません膝を撃たれました
I'm sorry, I was in the knee,
しかし命には別状はありません
but my life isn't in danger.
それより
More importantly,
ああ分かっているそれ以上は言うな
right, I understand. No need to say anything more.
とにかくすぐに救護班を用意させる
Anyway, we'll have the rescue team sent in right away.
ご苦労だった
Thank you for your service. Yamoki cut out the transceiver after saying that. And then, he watched the riot police escort the criminals this way, as the media flocked to take pictures.
未来を助けてくれか
Help Minai, huh?
分かっているともそれくらいは
I already know that much. By now, they were probably already reporting to the TV staff that one of the perpetrators was shot by an officer. But unlike the T University incident, this time they had made various preparations with the interview team in advance. Aside from the gossip magazines, the major newspapers and key TV stations should follow directions. And in which case, what they needed to do going forward was
山沖総隊長結城幕僚長がお呼びです
Commander Yamaoki, Chief of Staff Yuki is calling.
今後の広報対処について相談があるとのことです
He'd like to speak with you about public relations measures going forward.
ああ分かった
Right. Understood.
すぐに行く
I'll head straight over. Now, from this point on was the true opportunity to exercise his skills. He couldn't let an exceptional detective be sacrificed just to appease humanitarians. Lowell scandal. Lowell. 1. Incident summary. What is the Lowell scandal? Lowell. It's a series of medical incidents that occurred from the late 1960s into the 1970s, where mild to moderate psychiatric patients who were prescribed the Placil, is it alpha, medication began exhibiting abnormal behavior. It also refers to scrutiny of the drug evaluation process after it was revealed that board reviewers were receiving large bribes in an international corruption scandal. Placil alpha was created by a certain foreign company called Lowell Pharmaceutical and was originally developed to treat mental illness, in particular to combat anxiety and depression in patients. It received a lot of attention as a potential silver bullet for treating depression, which was otherwise regarded as an incurable illness. However, it was found that the drug often induced side effects when taken, and it was considered dangerous from the start. I really apologize if I both sound gross and disgusting, and also I'm like reading fast, but I'm trying to just make sure we go at a good pace here. So I'm sorry if I'm like reading so fast it's annoying to listen to. In Western countries, especially in Northern Europe, it wasn't classified as a dangerous drug, but it still hadn't been classified as an approved medication either. Nevertheless, it was approved as a licensed drug in Japan in 1962, intended to be used by medical institutions as a wonder drug for treating mental illness, which was a major social problem at the time. But in 1970, side effects of Placil alpha were accompanying litigation were taken up as an agenda item by a certain country's government. In response, a survey was conducted to determine if there was any similar cases observed in Japan, and surprisingly enough, there were quite a few incidents involving personal damage. They found the number was even in the thousands. It was an abnormal situation because the number of doctors who handled mental illness was far smaller than those handling other illnesses. The government ordered the Ministry of Health and Welfare to immediately revoke the approval of Placil alpha, for all distributors of medication from Lowell Pharmaceutical to immediately halt sale and perform a recall on the medication. Furthermore, they established an advisory committee consisting of experts in the field and sought to learn why related parties approved the drug when the risks were known in advance, continued to ignore the reported cases of side effects. The government then learned that bribes were being paid to certain medical experts who had a say in authorizing the drug, and even to some bureaucrats in the Ministry of Health and Welfare. 2. Why did the incident happen before approval? All drugs to be handled by Japanese medical institutions, including pharmacies and hospitals, were obligated to go through an approval process with the Ministry of Health and Welfare to be classified as sanctioned medication. The safety and efficacy of these products is evaluated by the Central Pharmaceutical Affairs Council, an advisory body working for the Minister of Health and Welfare. Council members include Ministry of Health and Welfare staff and experts in the medical field, such as professors from medical universities and other medical personnel, and medication cannot be sold in this country without their approval. It takes a considerable amount of time and capital for a new drug to be approved as sanctioned medication. Are there any side effects? Are there any differences in efficacy between individuals? To answer those questions, pharmaceutical manufacturers conduct clinical trials with the cooperation of various medical institutions and with the consent of the patients in order to properly evaluate the drugs. At least thousands of samples are collected. Then, they submit an application to the Ministry of Health and Welfare referencing the data collection over the several year-long period at the cost of several hundreds of millions of yen. Members of the council analyze the material for over a year to identify any potential problems or risks. And in the end, if everyone agrees there are no problems, the new drug can be approved and given the sanctioned medication classification, but it's very rare for a drug to pass without any problems the first time it's submitted. The efficacy of a drug can vary based on a patient's environment, physiology, and age. This is the natural matter, of course, in the interest of patient safety. However, in order to accomplish that, pharmaceutical companies have to endure hundreds of millions of yen in expenses over a time period lasting several years. Thus, pharmaceutical companies have been seeking the cooperation of doctors and experts with authority in the field in order to shorten the trial period and improve the credibility of their clinical data. The more well-known the doctor conducting the clinical trial, the shorter the necessary examination period to reach approval, which effectively reduces the cost. But the problem was the enormous amount of money being paid to doctors for their cooperation. There are no market prices for work commissions, and since all pharmaceutical companies are seeking the cooperation of exceptional doctors in many cases, the sky's the limit when it comes to compensation. Nevertheless, you could still say it's a fair price for outsourcing data collection. The problem was, the pharmaceutical companies weren't asking the doctors to investigate if there were any issues with the drug, but just to certify it as no problem. In other words, in cases like that, the doctor they request the data from doesn't actually check if it's safe or not, and simply forges clinical data. Obviously, this act defies medical ethics. In fact, it was later discovered that Lowell Pharmaceutical had paid a large amount of untraceable money to a prestigious university hospital known as an authority on mental illness in exchange for clinical trial results. Surprisingly enough, some university hospitals conducted no clinical trials at all. In a sense, they were only selling their name to Lowell Pharmaceutical. And furthermore, subsequent investigation in Japan revealed that some of the approving council members were accepting bribes. The approval period for Plastil Alpha was far shorter than expected in the first place. There were many experts who seemed uncomfortable with it, and there were danger signs even from the start. 3. Why did the incident happen after approval? The drug's exclusivity period would expire in 6 years, after which point it could be manufactured and sold by other distributors. Naturally, competition would reduce the market price, and companies that develop new drugs would be eager to get additional sales. Thus, Lowell Pharmaceutical continued to provide these so-called unaccounted expenses to the directors and general managers of these medical institutions even after Plastil Alpha was approved. And that was because it was far more efficient, reliable, and inexpensive in the long run than appealing to the differences and efficacy of medication conventionally. Since Plastil Alpha was a new drug, market price set by the Ministry of Health and Welfare was quite high, but the hospital directors prioritized a large volume of money lining their pockets and bought it one after another. And even though it was expensive, 80% of the drug's price was paid for by the Minister of Health and Welfare, so it wasn't a major loss for these medical institutions. In fact, Lowell Pharmaceutical secretly sold it on the side for under market price, allowing hospitals to save money on the difference. As a result, the number of hospitals adopting Plastil Alpha steadily increased, and many other highly credible hospitals began switching from older drugs to Plastil Alpha one after another. It was a vicious cycle. 4. Results. The problems listed above came to light one after another thanks to the Government Advisory Committee's investigation. Many of the council members resigned as a result, and doctors closely involved were arrested and imprisoned on suspicion of pharmaceutical affairs law violations. Additionally, doctors who accepted bribes from Lowell Pharmaceutical were at the very least demoted, and in some cases even stripped of their license. And, a few years later, Shigeru Onuma, the deputy director of the Ministry of Health and Welfare's Pharmaceutical Affairs Bureau at the time, was arrested on charges brought to light by a whistleblower. However, Onuma died in prison before investigators could determine the extent of his involvement, or if he was even involved at all. The cause of death was allegedly exacerbation of acute liver disease, which he had been suffering for several years. At present, suicide and conspiracy theories are still considered as possible explanations. Whoo! Speed reading there. Woo! I had to take a breath. We're all good though. No gaps in reading from voiced dialogue or something. Public security detective's death. I woke up with a light cough and a strange irritation in my throat. Looking at the clock, it was past 3 a.m. Since I got into bed around midnight, that meant I'd gotten about 3 hours of sleep. That's weird. I always took pride in being a good sleeper, so waking up in the middle of the night was abnormal. But tomorrow, or technically today, I have morning training with the track and field club. If I don't get enough rest, I'm more likely to injure myself at practice. I thought that and rolled back over, but I suddenly started feeling thirsty and opened my eyes again. For some reason, I couldn't sleep. Falling back asleep would be ideal, but I decided that I should get a drink of water from the kitchen to cool off, so I climbed out of bed. Then I stood up and unsteadily walked toward the door, reaching my hand for the doorknob. The moment I opened the door, intense heat blew into the room. Couldn't help but turn my head down and stumble, but I raised my head and opened my eyes. I was so shocked I froze on the spot. What? Even though the lights should have been out, the hallway was lit up in bright red. And even though it was the middle of the night, there was a shivering, roaring sound and a strange odor in the air. And what's more, stairs in the corner of the hallway leading down to the first floor were smothered in an intense blaze. A fire? That moment, the plate on the door opposite my room came into view, I came back to my senses. Madoka might still be asleep without noticing this. I rushed over and banged hard on her door while screaming out loud, forgetting that it was the middle of the night. Madoka, wake up! Come on, Madoka! What's going on, sis? Do you know what time? Do you know what time it is? Madoka came out looking sleepy, but as soon as she saw the flames brilliantly dyeing the hallway in light, she opened her eyes wide and stood there trembling at the unfathomable situation, even. That goes without saying. Nobody sees a fire like this in their everyday life. Especially not in your own home. No. Sis, It's alright, your sis is here. We're together. Dad, Mom! Fire! There's a fire! Hurry, get out of here! I shouted at the top of my lungs toward my parents, who should be sleeping downstairs, but there was no reply. I carefully approached the stairs while watching the fire, raising my voice to call out to them, but again, there was no response. Maybe they still haven't noticed. Or maybe... Oh no. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. I'm gonna try and mute myself. Got it. I shook my head to stave off the terrible thought that came to mind. No way. It can't be. Plus, my dad is a detective. He should be quick to catch on. Even if he was asleep, there's no way he wouldn't notice something so unusual going on in the house. I'm sure he already ran out of the house. He just couldn't make it upstairs because of the fire. And I'm sure he's watching from outside the house right now, thinking about how to help us. Yes, that must be it. I'm certain of it. Mom, Dad! Help! Hurry, come help us! There's fire. A fire. Madoka, calm down. For now, we need to get out of here. Get out of here? How? The stairs... The stairs are burning up. We can't go down. I'm scared. I looked back at my room beyond the hallway and gazed out the window. Right, should be a garden just below my room. The ground there is all dirt, so it's unlikely the fire spread there. Madoka, the window. We'll get down through the window. Huh? No way, how? If we jump from this high up, won't we get hurt? Getting hurt is way better than dying. Now hold on. Now hold on to me and hurry up. After saying that, I forcibly dragged Madoka into my room, ran over to the window, opened it, and looked down. Then I suddenly gasped. I was surprised that the distance to the ground felt far higher than expected. But more importantly, the window and sliding door in the living room had been blown off and were laying on the ground in the garden, while roaring flames could clearly be seen inside the room. And what's more, there were scattered fragments of shattered glass on the ground, with their sharp, evil blades shining that crimson light right at us. Mom! Dad! Madoka and I are over here! Hurry! Come here! I squeezed my voice as hard as I could and called out to my parents, who should already be outside the house. But there was no response. In fact, couldn't see any signs of them near the garden or the entryway. Sis, the fire! Turning back toward Madoka's pained voice, I saw the flames in the hallway had already spread to the door frame, showing signs of even creeping into the room. There's no time to hesitate. God. I closed my eyes and made a desperate prayer for the first time in my life, then opened them again. Then, I squeezed Madoka's trembling body and wrapped her arms around my shoulders, while tearing the sheets off the bed and using them as a rope to tie us together around the waist. Sis?
目をつぶってなさい。
Close your eyes
絶対に私の体から腕を離しちゃダメだから。
and never, ever let go of me. Upon hearing that, Madoka clung to my shoulder so tight it felt a little suffocating, and she closed her eyes tight with determination. I thought about jumping first so that I'd be able to catch Madoka, but I worried that she couldn't bring herself to jump and wouldn't be able to escape until it was too late. So, even though there's some risk involved, this is the best method. Even in the worst case, I should be able to land underneath Madoka to protect her.
行くよ。
Here we go. I tore off the curtain and made it into a long string that tied around one of the legs of the bed. Then I firmly grasped it in both hands while hanging outside the window, shaking off my hesitation and fear as I held Madoka in my arms and began to descend to the garden. However, since it was just a thin piece of cloth, it couldn't withstand the load of 2 people, so the fabric tore near the middle of the curtain. Even so, the height we fell from was about the height of a full-grown adult, so I was able to hit the ground just slightly stumbling down on my butt. Just a few minutes later, fire had overtaken our room. I had a slight bruise from the fall and a few cuts on my arm from the glass, but I wasn't seriously hurt. And of course, Madoka was fine. Soon after that, we were rescued by firefighters and received first aid in a nearby vacant lot. But even after being rescued, we were both still trembling. My nose twitched from the irritating stench all around the area. My throat ached like it was stuffed with burning sand, and the coughing wouldn't stop even after taking deep breaths. When I rubbed my cheeks, they were sticky with a mix of soot and sweat. But I was so stunned I couldn't even feel bothered by it. I just kept gazing at the wreckage that should have been my home. After the fire trucks parked along the road began firing water, flames were finally beginning to calm down. The smoke blowing around the area changed from black to white, and the heat that threatened to burn my skin gradually cooled off. But it's strange. Even though my house was supposed to be bright white and very beautiful, why is it burnt pitch black, with no roof, no walls, no windows? Sis? Upon hearing that voice, I turned and looked at my sister Madoka, who was still shaking in my arms. She was closing her eyes so firmly it looked like she was trying to escape from reality, tightly clenching my clothes and never letting go. I wanted to escape too, if it were possible. So many times I prayed in my heart that the scene was just a delusion from a nightmare. If it's a dream, just wake me up already. Let morning come and bring back the calm, everyday scenery I've been living in until just yesterday. However, my head became clearer and clearer and I felt more awake, as if to mock my desperate wish. And the signs of the fire assaulting all 5 of my senses put my consciousness firmly in reality. That's right. What about Mom and Dad? I suddenly realized that I'd forgotten about them all this time, then ran over to a nearby ambulance with Madoka. There was nobody there but the staff who had treated us, and no signs of anyone being brought there. Nevertheless, I shook off the increasingly growing bad feeling I had while grabbing one of the firefighters by the arm and entrusting him with my single hope by asking him all at once. Excuse me, firefighter? What was that? What was about our mom and dad?
Eh?
Huh?
君たち以外の誰かがあの家の中にいたのか?
Oh, there were more than just the 2 of you in that house? Yes. My dad and my mom were in a room on the 1st floor. It's on the other side of the living room over there, across the hallway. The moment I saw the startled look on the firefighter's face, all the blood in my body began pumping audibly. Can't be. Huh? Does that mean the only people rescued from the house were just me and Madoka? Then Mom and Dad are... No way. Can't be true. Excuse me, coming through. Please make way. Step aside, please. 2 other victims have been discovered. Need to be transported to the hospital immediately. Both have suffered a cardiac arrest. For now, take resuscitation measures while in the ambulance. From the direction of that roaring voice, 2 stretchers covered in white cloth are being carried out by firefighters, breaking through the wall of people. Huh? 2 victims? And they suffered cardiac arrest?
お母さん
Mom? Mom! Yeah. After hearing that, Madoka pushed me aside as I stood there absent-mindedly. She dashed toward the stretchers. I rushed after her, but there was no time to stop her. You there, please wait! Stop! Don't look, you can't look! Madoka!
お母
Mom?
おっと
Dad? Madoka approached the stretcher and tore off the white cloth, allowing both of us to see what lay underneath. It was... No. Madoka? Get a hold of yourself, Madoka! Why? Why? Why did this have to happen to our family? Alright, what's next? Arrest of Ministry of Health and Welfare official.
今大沼茂容疑者を乗せた車が厚生省の地下駐車場から出てまいりました。
Oh, car carrying the suspect Shigeru Onuma has just emerged from the underground parking lot of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. The moment the local reporter said that, a group of cameras waiting in front of the car's route all used their burning flashes at once to take pictures of the inside of the car. The Deputy Director of the Ministry of Health and Welfare's Pharmaceutical Affairs Bureau, Shigeru Onuma, was sitting in the center of the back seat between 2 detectives.
今待ち構えていた報道陣のカメラが後部座席に向かって一斉に撮影を行っています。
Right now, media personnel are shooting their cameras at the back seat all at once.
ものすごい数です。
In incredible numbers.
私も気をつけていなければこの人混みの波にさらわれてしまいそうなほどです。
If I'm not careful, I might be swept away by this wave of a crowd. In a short distance beyond the car, a group of people could be seen waving banners and placards, with various abusive phrases written on them in jumbled letters like murderer and corrupt official, and the mob of people slowly moved toward the car all at once, shouting in rage. Murderer! Give me back my daughter! You're not human, you're a demon. How can you look so calm after trampling on the lives of so many patients? Does money mean that much to you? Even though you're already being paid with our tax dollars, have some shame.
あそこに集まっているのは被害者の会の皆さんです。
The aggrieved parties are all gathered over there.
患者のご家族、知人、そして病院関係者、相当な人数に見受けられます。
Family members of patients, acquaintances, and hospital personnel gathered together in a considerably large group.
彼らは一斉に大沼容疑者の乗る車に向かって罵声を浴びせています。
They're all hurling harsh accusations towards the car suspect Onuma is riding.
今投石がありました。
Oh, one of them threw a stone just now. Damn you! Damn you! Thanks to you. Damn. Thanks to you, my daughter. My daughter is...
石を投げつけた人は周囲の警察官によって取り押さえられたとのことです。
The man who threw the stone has been seized by surrounding police officers.
ただ、その怒りたける感情は私たちにも理解できるものです。
But his anger is something we can all understand.
何しろ今回プラシルの副作用で病状が悪化した患者の数は現状確認できるだけでも500人以上。
After all, at present, it has been confirmed that over 500 patients' conditions have worsened due to side effects of Placil, a number that is still rising.
もともと分母の小さな精神疾患の分野においてこの数値は異常なものと専門家からもご意見をいただいております。
While mental disorder treatments is a small field, we have received word from experts that this number is far beyond the norm.
さらに患者が死に至った事例もいくつか判明しています。
Additionally, some of these cases have even resulted in death.
現場の吉村さん、
Yoshimura-san, as someone on the scene,
護送される大沼容疑者の様子はどんな感じでしたか？
can you tell us how the suspect Onuma is acting while being escorted?
はい、ちょっと車内が暗く覆われていて、しかも大沼容疑者は頭からすっぽりジャケットをかぶっていましたので表情などは分かりませんでした。
Right. The interior of the car was somewhat dark, and Onuma was wearing a jacket over his head, so couldn't get a good look at his expression.
ただ関係者の話ですと警察官が彼の職場に訪れる前から落ち着き払った表情でもはや覚悟を決めたという様子であったとのことです。
However, according to people connected to him, he seemed to be calm and ready to go even before the police arrived on the scene.
以前の取材では確か自らの潔白を訴えておりましたよね。
The suspect claimed his innocence in previous interviews, did he not?
そのあたりはどうだったのでしょう？
Has anything changed on that front?
残念ながらその点につきましてはまだ不確定な状況ですので今後の関係者への取材によってご報告したいと思います。
Unfortunately, that point remains unclear at the moment, so we are looking to interview related personnel going forward.
現場からは以上です。
And that is all from the scene. What bullshit? What bullshit indeed. Okay. We might as well just finish up the second page, right? And then we'd have 2 and almost half of these pages left. But a nice clean 2 things here. Resignation notice. Incident reports. I'm just taking a look at some of these other things here. Drunken boss's true identity? Oh? A 6? Oh shit, more incident reports? How exciting. Okay, last one for the night here. Resignation notice. The sky was dyed red by the setting sun, and even the clouds took on a crimson hue. I turned back and looked at the big clock near the roof of the school building. It was nearly 6 p.m., long past time to go home.
さすがに定期試験前に部活はやらないか。
Of course, nobody's doing regular club activities right before exams. I turned back and looked at the field. I made sure nobody else was around, then shrugged my shoulders and smiled. My shadow was stretched long and thin along the ground, and somewhat vague. I should be used to this scenery. It's what it always looks like just before I leave school, and yet felt strange.
Oi, Minai!
Hey, Minai! I turned back toward the voice calling out to me. There was no need to even check who it was. I recognized immediately that the voice came from my upperclassman.
お疲れ様です、塚田先輩。
Nice work, Tsukada-senpai.
ロードワークからの戻りですか？
Coming back after jogging?
大会近いと大変ですね。
It must be tough when we're so close to the competition.
お前は？
Yeah, what about you?
図書館で勉強です
I was studying at the library.
中間ちょっとミスっちゃったから
Oh, I
期
get
末
the
で挽回し
resignation
な
letter
い
it's
と
gonna be talking about. I had some trouble on the midterm, so I need to recover by the end of the term.
嘘つけよ。
You liar. Having unconsciously been looking away, I rose my eyes upon hearing that, and then looked back at Tsukada-senpai. I get to say senpai a bunch. He seemed angry, but also sad. Looked like he was deeply worried about me.
先輩
Senpai?
聞いたぞ。矢部から。
I heard from Yabe.
お前、陸上部辞めるんだって。
You're quitting the track team?
ええ、まあ。
Well, yeah. I scratched my cheek and answered with a bitter smile on my face. The truth is, I decided I would tell everyone about that after school tomorrow, so I didn't want to run into any of my peers who were doing club activities and intentionally kill time in the library to wait until later to head home. But it seems that was a completely wasted effort.
お前のことだ。いい加減な考えで決めたわけじゃないと分かってる。
I'm sure you didn't come to this decision lightly.
だけど、もう少し考えてみないか。
But could you give it just a little more thought?
別にそこまで急ぐことではないはずだ。
There's no need to be so hasty.
大会まであと少しじゃないか。
There's still a little more time before the competition, you know?
矢部先生にも同じことを言われましたよ。
Yabe Sensei told me the same thing.
だけど、もう決めたんです。
But I've already decided.
今月で陸上部、やめます。
As of this month, I'm quitting the track team.
見ない。
いろいろとありがとうございました、塚田先輩。
Thanks for everything, Tsukada senpai.
インハイの記録更新の約束、破ってすみません。
Sorry to break that promise about breaking records at the inter-high meet. I bowed down as I said that to shake off all the thoughts running through my head. Even until the end, I wanted to go to that competition. But if I participated, there'd be a lot of curiosity from the audience and interviewers awaiting me, and the commotion could be a nuisance for the other contestants. Tragic athlete lost her parents in a fire, overcoming sadness while aiming for new records. To be blunt, it hardly felt like they cared. It even came across as malicious. Even if it's eye-catching, it would bring me no joy to attract interest from something outside the competition. So, I decided here now. It's definitely not right for me to make the other contestants uncomfortable with my lingering regrets when they're so passionately focusing on the competition.
去年の
Honestly true.
先輩と一緒に行った最初で最後になっちゃいましたね。
Last year's Inter High was the first and now the last time we'll be competing together.
今年は男子の団体リレーも女子のトラック競技も厳しいみたいだし、ひょっとしたら先輩お一人での遠征になるかもしれませんが、頑張ってください。
It seems the boys' relay and the girls' track competition will be tough this year, so you might have a hard time handling it on your own, but please do your best.
私、応援していますから。
You have my support.
それじゃ、私はこれで。
Alright, I need to get going.
練習邪魔してすみませんでした。
Sorry to disturb you during practice. I gave Tsukada senpai the brightest smile I could muster, then bit at my lip as I turned around and headed toward the school gate. I'm sorry for not being more courteous, but please try to understand. Today was painful enough for me just turning down the guidance counselor. If you too try to stop me from quitting when I'm in a state like this, I'm sure I'll lose my resolve. So now, at least for today, let me be alone.
Minai!
Minai!
もう陸上部の連中は誰もいない。
There's nobody else on the track team around.
だからせっかくだ。飛んでいけよ。
So while you're here, why not go for the jump? Looking back, Tsukada senpai had a friendly smile on his face and was pointing to the high jump bar that was set in a place a short distance away. The coach brought a new one with the club expenses, saying it was in celebration of me reaching the national championship last year. I was thrilled at the time and kept on jumping not just during morning practice, but even during lunch break.
でも、もう時間が。
But it's getting late.
記録更新のために1年間ずっと頑張ってきたんだろ。
You worked hard for a whole year to break records, didn't you?
その宿題くらいちゃんとやり遂げていけ。
Consider this your homework. Give it a proper attempt.
俺が見届けてやるから。
I'll be here to act as your witness. I'm sure of it. He really wanted to say something else. Don't quit. Let's do our best together for one more year. Even if he didn't explicitly say it, the look in Tsukada senpai's eyes conveyed that to me. But he dared not say it because he knew the circumstances that led me to leave the track team. Always believing that people could only be saved with compassion and mercy. That was the kind of person Osamu Tsukada was. Thanks to his compassion, my eyes suddenly started feeling heated. Right as tears were about to come spilling out, I looked up to the sky.
着替えてこいよ。
You can get changed.
今ならまだ部室の鍵も開いてるしさ。
I still have the key to the club room.
はい。
Okay. When I changed into my uniform and came back to the track field, the high jump bar was already set in place.
準備できてるぞ、見ない。
All set up, Minai.
この高さでいいんだよな。
The sight works, right?
はい。
Yes. Gently gazing at the tick marks beside the pole, I suddenly went numb. The bar was set 1 centimeter higher than my personal best, from when I won at the National Athletic Meet last year.
覚えてくれてたんだ。
He remembered. Although, up until now, I never managed to successfully jump this height. And the coach would never let me jump it, saying my form becomes clumsy when I'm overly focused on it. But now, the ban had been lifted. I'll never have to worry about my form getting worse.
さあ、飛べよ。
Go on. Jump. Then Tsukada-senpai adjusted the bar and the poles and turned to me. It's almost closing time. The chime will probably ring out by the time I've made a single jump, signaling the remaining students to leave. I nodded to my senpai, then lined myself up with the line on the ground. And then, I lightly inhaled and then exhaled. And at the same moment I inhaled again, I pushed on my feet and broke into a run. I ran in a bow-shaped curve, gradually approaching the bar with light steps. And, the moment I reached maximum speed, when I saw the shadow of the bar right beside me, I kicked on the ground and jumped back first. My body soared high in the air as I gazed up at the dazzling sky. Almost on instinct, I flipped back with my legs up in the air. In that moment of weightlessness, I sensed the sound of the bar lightly shaking before I landed on the soft mat below me. I turned and stared at the bar. It was faintly quivering to and fro, but in the end it was still on the poles. Standing still. The next moment, I heard Tsukada-senpai cheering.
やったぞ、未来。
You did it, Manai!
自己ベスト更新だぞ。
A new personal record!
はい。
Yeah. I was delighted, and for a while I just laid there motionless on the mat with my arms and legs spread wide. This feeling, this joy, is something I'll never forget. I held back the tears welling up inside me while carefully reflecting on that thought. Oh, that's a nice way to end that. That's a nice. Ah, tragic though. Alright, so next time we read, we'll start in on page 3 here. Look at that though. 2 of 5, or really 2 of 4.5 pages here. Like I said, connecting fragments I don't think is super long or anything. I don't even know if technically saving is needed, but I'll do it anyway. Just in case. Alright, so next time we'll continue reading this. I have no idea what stream will be tomorrow. There's even, I think I said this yesterday about today, and then we ended up streaming anyway. But same thing, tomorrow potentially might not be streaming. I don't know, or it might be some short little stream late. Something like that. The schedule is kind of being funky around because of other things, outside things. So apologies about that. But if we do stream tomorrow night, not sure what it'll be. I don't know if I want to just get up and just, set up DK, or if we want to wait a bit on that. Maybe we get so bold and we jump back into finally blueprints again after about a 1.5-month hiatus or so. I don't know. We'll think about it. I'll think about it. We'll come back tomorrow. If I don't stream tomorrow for whatever reason, then we'll be back Friday night at the end of the week. Maybe 2 days off. Ooh. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching this. We're still plugging away at Higurashi. Like I said, I think once we finish connecting fragments, I think we have, obviously there's a few more arcs left to go, but that one after connecting fragments, Ura. That's like the last long one, I think. So, and I say long one, I don't even think it's that super long, but it's like the longest one that's left. So We'll see. Thanks for watching. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with my voice and my sicky sounding thing. It must be something about Higurashi when I sit down at the desk to read that I just... the congestion all returns and I become a sickly old man that I am. So, apologies for that. Thanks for putting up with it. I know it's not the best reading, listening voice. Yeah. Hope you have a nice rest of your night or day. Whenever you're hearing this, I'll be back tomorrow, maybe. Until then.